Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 367. I am Peter, and rejoice because Connor's not here. Matt is though.
Welcome to the Nightmare Realm. We're still in Night Terrors.
We are. We're about halfway through Night Terrors, give or take, with this week. So we'll get into all that and whatnot. So DC Comics Podcast, we get together, we talk about the books we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Night Terrors issue 2, Night Terrors Detective Comics issue 1, Night Terrors Action Comics issue 1, Night Terrors Titans issue 1, and this is where I have to ask Matt, did you read Night Terrors Angel Breaker?
I did not. I was struggling to finish the Mark Waid Superman book today.
You weakling.
So, yep.
Connor said you wouldn't do it, and you proved him right.
Did he now? That's what I thought he said I would do it.
No, he said you weren't man enough to read it.
Oh yeah, well he's right. put one in the column for Connor for once.
Oh dear. And then we have Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor, issue 1 to wrap up. So
I was gonna say, when I said I struggled to reading it, it was just up against the clock. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying it. I want to make that clear.
Oh, of course.
It was, yes. It was. This is I shouldn't have left the 50-page book for last. So.
Yeah. So we'll get into all that. I was going to do a Patreon book and then left it to next week because next week's a very similar amount of books, but there's no oversized books, and we won't have solicits next week. So it just felt like a wiser spread of time.
Smart.
So yeah, we'll get into all the things and whatnot.
And we kind of lucked out too because we didn't have Brave and the Bold, which I knew that we didn't have, but I forgot. So
yeah, just for anyone who doesn't know, actually, we should probably explain that because you're probably thinking that we were going to talk about the Tom King story in Brave and the Bold issue 3. However, part 3 of that story is not in issue 3 of Brave and the Bold. In fact, I think I saw on Twitter that it's going to be issue 5 before that story's back. So, you know, the book then was a collection of stories that were continuing parts of things that we hadn't read. So, you know, it was just easy to just ignore it. But we are not going to be skipping when Tom King and Mitch Gerrard's story's back in it, don't worry.
Nope.
So, but yeah, so that is, that explains that. Yes, lots of things. Obviously, Comic-Con was last weekend. That was ongoing. I think all the big news did hit before we recorded, so, you know, nothing new. We do have solicits, of course. That's the other big thing we'll talk about before we get to the book discussions, of course. But I suppose I shall start this with a simple question. Matt, how was your week?
It was good. It was just tiring. But other than that, it was decent. So how was yours?
Yeah, it was okay. I was waking up early a lot this week, but I, for the first time in a few weeks, actually got to watch just some random movies, just for,
nice.
You know, watched a couple things on the Criterion channel. I got another couple lined up, which I'll probably not get to today or tomorrow because I've got, I'm you know, chock-a-block with recordings today and tomorrow. But yeah, come Monday, I'll get back into it. Be playing video games, you know. I don't know. Yeah. It's been a relatively decent week, and obviously Oppenheimer. I went to go see that and recorded the review of that.
Yeah.
Which was a 2 hours and 20-minute review that we did on the collector's cut.
Way to stay on brand.
Yeah. Hey, that's still shorter than the movie. We don't always fulfill that promise.
I know.
So sometimes we go way over the length of the movie. It just so happens that this was a 3-hour movie, so we'd have really had to have tried to hit those numbers.
So I've been going off of people that I know that have seen it. Do I need to make a point to go see it?
Oh yeah, go see it. It's must see. It's and enjoy it as well, because between that and Barbie and the new Turtles movie, which is reviewing very well, by the way, it feels like after this couple of weekends that the movie going experience is going to slow down a bit. So I would enjoy it while it's there, because in a couple months' time, when all you've got is The Nun 2, you'll be thanking me for telling you to go see a good movie.
We got a little clip for that when we went to see Haunted Mansion last night, and Ash looked to me and she goes, "They really made a sequel to that crappy movie?" And that's fire from her. She likes a lot of those bad Conjuring movies, you know, out of a not a comedic level, but an entertainment, that they're so bad. But The Nun really didn't do it for her. So,
Yeah,
very, very funny.
Can't say I was particularly fond of The Nun, although at least it was laughably bad in some places, which made it more entertaining than
Yes.
Annabelle or Curse of La Llorona
Yep.
or some of the other ones. There's been a lot of bad spin-offs to the Conjuring movies.
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't even know it was getting a sequel until that came up. So, yes.
Yeah. Weird times ahead, especially with the strike looming and, things are going to be delayed and whatnot.
Yeah.
Sony already delayed a bunch of stuff, and it's probably fairly likely that all the other studios are going to follow and spread out what they've got. It's entirely possible that even like, I don't know, it's probably too close to Blue Beetle, but like I could see the Marvels being pushed to early next year just to spread out what they've got over a bit more time. Or Dune from Warner Brothers, but obviously if one of them moves first, the other probably won't, because then they'll have November kind of to themselves, and that's appealing, I guess. So
yeah,
it just kind of depends on who blinks.
Well, I mean, they've already moved Marvels once, right? Because
that's true.
The whole fast food tie-in stuff that's out right now, and the movie's not out till November. So
yeah, because there was a movie, there was an indie movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it was meant to come out in August, and it got delayed to December. And it's already done, obviously, but the hope is that the strikes will be over by December so the cast can promote the movie. That's maybe optimistic. I'm not sure. I could still see the strike going to the end of the year. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, December isn't unfeasible that it'll all be over by then. But honestly, it's hard to say right now. But, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Not that this affects comics, per se, just comic book movies, potentially. But
yeah. I did see people talking about get ready for these writers. I guess like comics aren't part of the guild, so if they need money, I guess the last time a writer strike happened, a lot of them ended up writing subpar comics because they're not comic writers, but they're just big names. So, yeah. So I guess be on the lookout for that if it goes long.
Yeah, maybe. So I don't know. I don't know. It's just a weird time. But hey, you know what? There's a century of movies that I bet a lot of you haven't seen, like even 20% of. You've got tons of old movies that you could go check out. The backlogs are flowing. You plenty to do. And of course, you can always read more comics. That's always an option too. So, yeah. Yes, I did recommend Oppenheimer. So I'll just plug Collector's Cut, which is the movie podcast that we reviewed it on. We're doing a Christopher Nolan season. We did Following and then Memento, and then obviously Oppenheimer just came out this weekend, a review of that at the time of recording.
So then you didn't go in chronological order?
Well, we didn't want to leave Oppenheimer to the end because it would be like several weeks after it came out. So it's chronological order aside from that one.
Gotcha.
But we're taking a 2-week break because we're doing the 2007 animated TMNT and then Mutant Mayhem when that comes out, and then we'll be back to Nolan for Insomnia, The Prestige, and Dunkirk. Because all of the sci-fi and Batman movies we've already done on other shows before.
Of course.
Yeah, first movie theater movie me and my wife went to was TMNT. So
there you go.
It holds a special place. Plus, Chris Evans is Casey Jones, which she's a Chris Evans lady.
And who voiced April O'Neil in that film, Matt?
I believe she was in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
That's accurate, yes. Also,
but nothing else. I don't know her from anything else though. She's married to Freddie Prinze Jr.
She's also got a scene in the hit sequel Scream 2, I think you'll find.
Yes, she does. And she's the voice of, I think, the second sister on Rebels, I believe.
Also, you might know from a hit television show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer! There you go. So, no. We just recorded that recently. It's it was funny watching it now is the CG from 2007. It does look like a video game cutscene now. Like compared to like back then, so it is kind of weird, but that's just time moving forward. Can't really do it.
But if I remember, the story's still pretty good. Like, it's still a pretty decent Turtles.
The Turtles story between Leo and Raph is quite good. It's definitely the best part of the movie. The villain story though is a bit just whatever.
Yeah. Max was it Winters?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like a prominent turtle. It almost felt like we're saving the good stuff for a sequel that unfortunately didn't happen.
That didn't happen. Yeah.
But oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah, but Mutant Mayhem looks pretty good. It was getting we got the trailer last night and was getting good.
It's
theater reactions.
Yeah, it's reviewing shock. It's at like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It is. Well, that's the thing. Mission Impossible, Barbie, Oppenheimer, now Mutant Mayhem are all in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. There's been a very good few weeks for critically acclaimed cinema.
Yeah,
so
it's good.
Yeah, go see some movies, support the good ones. Always worth doing. And forget that Mattel want to ruin it by doing a Barbie shared universe with 15 other products, most of which I can't imagine what a movie would even be. Like, what is an Uno movie? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, let's get into Matt's favourite part of the show.
Yep.
Our own cinematic universe, if you will.
God, the darkest timeline.
The ComiXology Top 10, everyone! We'll be looking at Tuesday and Wednesday's books and how they rank right now, ranked on ComiXology per sales. So, yeah. Well, you got a guess for Tuesday for DC's day?
I'll throw out Night Terrors #2.
That is incorrect, Matt.
Wow. Then is it Last Days of Lex Luthor?
It is Superman Last Days of Lex Luthor issue 1, which obviously shows, I think, so it shows two things. I think the minor thing that it shows, and this we've seen this a lot recently, is that Mark Waid books, at least digitally, seem to sell quite well compared to other DC books. Cool. Always nice. The second thing it shows, though, is that maybe people aren't really that into Night Terrors as a whole.
Yeah. Well, I just went with Night Terrors first just because it's digital, and I know something like Last Days of Lex Luthor, I figured that'd be a bigger physical deal. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, I'm sure it is going to be fine physically.
Right.
I think it just shows that the digital and physical audience, like, maybe there's some who sort of dip their toes in both, but I feel like most people are either one or the other. There's no, grand swings, I guess. But no, it's just cool to see. Number 2 is Night Terrors issue 2. Number 3 is Batman Brave and the Bold issue 3. Which is cool. Like I said, though, it's a shame though because the cover looks like it is for the.
That's why I must have forgotten that it wasn't in there because I opened it up to read to it first and I was like, wait, their names aren't here.
Yep.
And then I promptly let you guys know on Tuesday morning.
Yeah. I think I saw on Twitter. Garrett say that issue 5 he thinks is where the next one is, but he basically said like no, they let them push it back a few issues, like a regular delay because they want it to be all his art and they want it to be up to the high standard. So
up to the standard, yes, and that's fine. They have stories that you can throw in there to make up the page count. I
mean, let's face it, this Batman Joker story is going to be a great hardcover when it's all done on its own. So. Alright, number 4 is Night Terrors Titans, issue 1. Number 5 is Night Terrors Action Comics. Number 6 is Night Terrors Detective Comics. And then number 7 is Batman Beyond Neo Gothic. Number 8 is Night Terrors Harley Quinn. Number 9 is Night Terrors Angel Breaker. And number 10 is DC Ruby. I guess congratulations to Angel Breaker that there just wasn't enough DC books out to bump it out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we're at the top 10, we're into collections and stuff. Batman the Knight's there, Crisis on Multiple Earths book, whatever number that's on now. Wednesday though, you got a guess for Wednesday, Matt?
I'm looking for the cheat code, and I'm not seeing anything come in with the first couple columns. I'll go with. Let's see. Do I go with Avenger? Nope. There it is. X-Men Hellfire Gala, number 1.
That is correct.
Yeah, there it is.
I hate how consistent your cheat code seems to actually work.
I know. It's a market, what's it called? A market inefficiency.
Yeah. Number 2 is Ultimate Invasion, issue 2. Number 3 is Invincible Iron Man, issue 8. Number 4 is Avengers, issue 3. Number 5 is Wolverine 35. Number 6 is Incredible Hulk. Number 7 is Amazing Spider-Man. That's kind of weird, Amazing Spider-Man, but all the way down at 7 underneath all these other books.
I feel like there's been a backlash on that book.
There's been a lot of critiques of it recently. Obviously, the Miss Marvel stuff was getting a lot of flack online. Number 8, She-Hulk, issue 15. Number 9, Berserker. Or Berserker. How do you say it without vowels? It's not possible.
Berserker. I mean, yeah. Berserker. There we go.
Berserker.
Berserker.
Number 10 is What If Spider-Gwen. Or sorry, What If Dark Spider-Gwen. That's not a clunky title at all. So sadly, 9 out of 10 were Marvel books. That's a little bit on the high side for me. Looking just outside the top 10, there's a Power Rangers book at number 13, and then World Tree right after that, which is a James Tynion book. Yeah, there you go. Not a lot of super exciting stuff to report, but there you go. That's the top 10. So we'll move on. Just before we get to solicit, I want to just mention I did see on Twitter the artist for an upcoming issue of Catwoman. I think it's the one during the crossover for October or November.
Batman?
Yeah. Basically just tweeted out, and this seems like something they probably shouldn't have tweeted out because it'd probably get them out of trouble. But they basically just said, "Oh, I just got the script in for this issue of Catwoman that I was meant to have 6 weeks for, but now I've only got 3 weeks. So this is why it'll only have stick figures," which which I feel like they'll probably get into trouble for because, you know, it's shade on the company.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily shade on the writer per se, because, I mean, I don't know if it's the writer's fault necessarily, especially since it's this weird crossover thing going on with multiple writers collaborating. But certainly, though, like, given some of the books that seem to have these, like, fill-in artists doing half the pages, this doesn't surprise me that it happens from time to time.
They just don't announce it like this person did.
Yes. This is the only time that I feel like we get to know in advance, oh, this is probably going to have half the pages by someone else.
I do think that it's funny that you're not naming names, that this was Tom King saying this.
Tom King.
So
you could give him 6 months and still be sick figures.
That's what I'm saying. He's leading into it now.
So I just thought it was worth mentioning. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have the tweet in front of me, so I can't name the artist, but
yeah, I think it is a very funny joke though. Like it got a good reaction from me.
Oh sure.
You know. Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, we do have solicits for October we're looking at, yes. So we got October solicits. Obviously we talked about some of the things that were announced last week, but we'll go through them as always, give our thoughts on some covers or any details that might pop up that are worth mentioning. I've not looked at these, so I like to just discover them as we go. So first up, we got Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong issue 1, aka how Kong will lose like a bitch again.
I can't wait because Batman to affect Godzilla and watch your brain melt.
No. See, that's a mano a mano showdown. I can accept either winner in that scenario, right? Sir. I can respect either outcome. But what I love about this is that we're going to see Godzilla beat Kong, we're going to see Superman beat Kong, we're going to see Wonder Woman beat Kong, and then somehow with the power of preparation, Batman is going to beat Kong's ass, and it's going to be glorious.
No. And then he's going to turn on Godzilla, and he's going to have some, nuclear blast suit, kaiju battler thing.
That's the thing. I actually am more interested in seeing how someone like Batman tackles Godzilla, because Godzilla does have rules like that, because there is the radiation, there is, there's things to kind of explore. But Kong is just a big ape, though. There's not really much.
And that's why I love him.
What are they going to do? Find some giant bananas to lure him somewhere with?
Hey man, if he has his axe that was in the movie, I think they need to watch out. Godzilla doesn't use tools. He doesn't have a higher functioning brain.
I agree, he's an idiot.
Godzilla?
No, Kong.
He's got a lizard brain.
Oh, you're talking about Godzilla? I thought you were talking about Kong.
Yeah.
I was just hearing what I wanted to hear, apparently.
You were, because I said Godzilla doesn't use tools.
He doesn't need tools, he's got atomic breath.
Yeah, exactly. So Kong has an axe, and I'm just saying, he uses tools.
He can also...
He's in the Stone Age.
Godzilla can also swim. He's a very efficient swimmer. Kong though is like a video game character who, like, if he just dips his toes in water, that's it, he's dead.
Well, that's based off of truth, really. I'm about to bore Pete because he doesn't care about real life stuff like this. But the muscle mass on a gorilla is so dense as they sink, so they're not effective swimmers. So that's why you don't see too many apes going so close to water. That said, in Kong Skull Island, that Kong wasn't, adverse to fighting, lake creatures or river creatures. So it shows it's not based in reality. That's all.
Oh, I'm sorry. The movie about the giant ape that's about the size of a 30-story building is not based in reality.
I guess not.
Okay.
So what gets me about this book here, though, like, yes, it looks fun. I'm going to read the hell out of it. But, like, what is a roar sound effects gatefold variant cover? Does that mean it's going to have the Godzilla roar when you open it?
I think that's what it means. I think that, the old kids' books where there's a little sound chip in it, and you...
Let's go. Like, even I'm a Kong guy, I'd much rather have the Godzilla sound when I open
it's a
up
much
that
more
book.
iconic sound.
Yeah.
No denying that.
Yeah. So that is really cool. There's a Kong roar sound one too, but that's...
Besides, I just saw the prequel to Godzilla. It was called Oppenheimer.
You're not wrong.
I know, I'm wrong. I'm bang accurate is what I am. Alright, next up, Amazon's Attack, issue 1. This is Josie Campbell with Vasco Georgiev on the art. We've got... what we got here? We got Yara, we got Mary Marvel, we got Nubia. So we talked about this a bit last week. The fact that it's Josie Campbell and that Mary Marvel's on the team does obviously pique our interest, I think, a lot more than it otherwise might have been. Not to say that we can't enjoy just a Wonder Woman book, but I feel like there's been a lot of these like mini-series tied to Wonder Woman over the last year or two, and they've all been kind of just like and skippable. Well,
they've ran back Amazon Attack like 4 times since the original that came out in the mid-2000s. It was written by Will Pfeiffer. So every time I see it again, I'm just like, okay, we're doing this again. This, though, you put this team, Campbell and Georgiev, and my interest is piqued.
Yeah. Supergirl Special, we also talked about a little bit. This is Marika Tamaki writing with Skylar Partridge on art. And it's funny, we were so excited about this that I don't think any of us even mentioned that Tamaki did being super. So it's actually a return to Supergirl.
I think that you did. I think that's what that was. Yeah. Or Connor did. I remember hearing being super in there.
Well, regardless, there's a reason to be excited. Hopefully this leads to some more Tamaki comics at DC. There's been a little break for DC since our Detective Comics stuff, so hopefully this is a bridge to more.
And Supergirl's been, she hasn't had a book really either, so...
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully let's put some feelers out.
We got Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 20. Waid and Mora, as you'd expect. Is that's a lot of Kingdom Come looking characters on that cover, Matt?
Yeah, because they were talking about Boy Thunder. So we all know what universe he ends up in. The fact that he becomes Magog. Curious to see how that plays into what Waid's been doing, considering he wrote Kingdom Come. But yeah, Dan Mora doing that version, not which I'm so used to the Kingdom Come designs. Like, we've seen them before, but they're so, I associate Alex Ross with them. But seeing Dan Mora's take on them, they just, they have a difference to them, and I can't explain it,
Yeah, although those shoulders on Batman are compensating for something. Look at the bloody things.
Yeah. Yep.
Then we got Batman City of Madness issue 1. This is Christian Ward writing and doing art. This is a 3-issue Prestige Plus book. Does it say Black Label? I'm assuming it's Black Label. I don't know
if it's Prestige Plus, that usually is.
It probably is, yeah. Let's read that one. I don't know what this is. Let's have a look. Buried deep beneath Gotham City, there exists another Gotham. The Gotham below is a living nightmare, populated by twisted mirrors of our Gotham denizens. This sounds a little bit like the Upside Down, I'm not going to lie. Fueled by the fear and hatred flowing down from above. For decades, the doorway between the cities has been sealed, so it's kind of like a magical... See, I was going to criticize this a minute ago for like, well, this has been down there the whole time, but now it sounds it's like a portal to another dimension almost
that's
underground.
Been opened, yeah.
Yeah. All right. But it's been guarded by the court owls, this doorway. Oh, that's interesting. But now the door swings wide, and the twisted version of the Dark Knight has escaped. To trap and to train a Robin of his own, Batman must form an uneasy alliance with the court and his deadly allies to stop him, and to hold back the wave of twisted supervillains, nightmarish versions of his own nemesis, each one worse than the last, that's spilling into his streets. You know what? I think if you told me there's an evil Batman running around and just pitched me that, I'd say, I feel like we do that enough. This actually sounds quite interesting, though, to be honest. I'm kind of into this description.
Well, and after the last Christian Ward drawn book was that Aquaman.
That's right. Oh, that was gorgeous, yeah.
Then that looked great, and he was doing some monstery stuff in there.
Yeah.
Here, like Dark Batman drawn by Ward, you know.
Yeah, I think his art is going to lend itself to it because it'll feel cosmic horror. I think the other thing that makes this work for me is, one, it's got a lot of lore already tied to it. This idea that the Court of Owls are guarding it, and Batman's going to have to like work with them. Yep. But also the idea that a horrible version of Batman's trying to find a kid to turn into his Robin in our world, or in like the regular DC world. That's kind of interesting. I'm in. Yeah, give it to me.
Yeah, I like the Court of Owls because we haven't gotten them a lot, right? I feel like pick their spots in the stories that they use them.
Yeah, I feel like we've not seen them much outside of continuity, because this is a Black Label book, right? So I feel like we don't tend to see them in books like this. I mean, in the last couple of years, we have seen them pop up. Like, they were in the Gotham Knights video game. I think they eventually showed up on like Gotham, I want to say, by the end. But I feel like because they're a relatively new creation. They're over a decade old now, but that's relatively new in comics terms. I feel like this is just one of the first times I can remember them being in like a prestige, like standalone book like this. I could be wrong. Maybe there's an example that I'm not thinking of, but this is sticking out to me on that.
Yeah, no.
So cool. And the cover is very nice and.
Kristen Ward, it's got tentacles.
I do see octopus-style tentacles. Maybe there's a Kraken in this as well. Hey, maybe it's set in the same world as Aquaman Andromeda.
That's what it was called. I was racking my brain. I couldn't remember. But yeah, I like the court. It should be fun.
Yeah. So then we got Batman 138. Chip Zdarsky, Jorge Jimenez. Oh, Jimenez on art.
That's exciting. I just the cover. There's a number of things in Batman I don't want to see anymore. And right up next to it, I don't want to see Nightwing fight Bruce. I'm over it. Like, talk it out. Go to therapy. All right.
It does kind of feel like Zdarsky's going down the shopping list of everything that every Batman writer seems to hit on. Yeah. I mean,
well, again, this could just be metaphorical, right?
Yeah,
like they might not actually. It's just Dick going out like, why are you doing this with Selena, type stuff. But the cover doesn't instill me with confidence.
No, that's fair. Catwoman 58. This was the one. Yeah, Nico Leon. This was the one who complained on Twitter. So yeah, which makes sense. This is 3 months till this comes out. So yeah, 3 months to do the art. Good luck, Nico, if you're not taken off for trash talking the process on Twitter. Yeah. Then we got Batman Catwoman The Gotham War Red Hood issue 2. This is the tie-in two-parter. And then we got Batman Catwoman The Gotham War Scorched Earth issue 1, which is the finale to the crossover. Can't say I'm particularly thrilled at any of this still, but hey, at least it's done with by the end of October.
Yeah, real quick on the Nico Leon thing. I just pulled up the tweet because it's still up there.
Yeah.
And they also add, I think I might write an open letter explaining the massive pain that's been working in Catwoman. So there's a little bit more to than just the joke of stick figures.
Yeah, that sounds a little spicy. Like they've had maybe repeating conflicts with getting the scripts late or something like that.
Yeah, so and it might not be at the writer. It could be editorial. It could be forcing a crossover that wasn't meant. Who knows?
Yeah. It could be a problem with either Tini Howard, the writer, or it could be an editorial problem where maybe in past issues they've done the book and then they've said, no, you need to change it for this reason. Yeah. And, it could be more that than the writer's always late. Because I don't want to just villainize the writer based on this one tweet.
Right.
I don't have enough evidence to say that.
So they say working in Catwoman, it's not just like... Because I feel like if they wanted to call out the writer, it would have been worded a little bit differently. So it just seems like a cry for help amidst frustration, you know. But very interesting. We haven't had any kind of like creative dramas since DDO left, really. This was a lot more common under his stewardship.
Yes, DDO leaving, of course, is D-Day in DC terms.
D-Day, that's correct.
All right, Detective Comics 1075.
Ooh, what a cover.
We do have a young Bruce Wayne surrounded by bats, which might suggest some metaphorical returns to his childhood. Let's hope for no perils. Ram V, I trust you.
I trust him for giving us a different perspective, so, but yes.
Yes. Art by Dustin Nguyen, though. That is a notable artist to have on a regular issue of Detective.
Good for Ram V. First signs a all-exclusive contract with DC, now getting to work with Dustin Nguyen.
DC put a ring on it.
That's right.
We got Nightwing 107, and what I can only describe as a sexy photo for like the calendar, the Bat Boys calendar. And this is Nightwing as a construction worker up on... No, so not construction. This is a ship. This is a ship. He's up on the... I thought he was up like a power pylon thing for a second.
He's a pirate, Pete.
I see that now. Yeah. I'm looking at it closer. I thought he was up like fixing phone lines or something.
Oh man!
Just for a second.
I know, it's just very funny. I would put this art on my wall. I am unashamed. This is a great image.
The shirt's kind of half open. That said, though, they're not objectifying his ass for a change, so.
Which is nice.
Variety.
Yeah, like
some variety.
Yeah, I feel like this is a glamour shot for Babs. We
got Batman and Robin issue 2. That's right. Remember that Willamson's starting a Batman and Robin series in September. So yeah, that's issue 2 of that. We got Birds of Prey issue 2. We're all excited for the Kelly Thompson book, so that's coming. I'm loving the negative space on the covers for these so far.
I mean, Leonardo Romero did do Hawkeye with Kate and Kelly Thompson, so very, very similar in that style. Very excited for this book.
I like how you said Kate first. Like Kate's like a creative member of the team.
Well, yeah, no, I just, you know what I mean.
Kate collaborated by telling them her life story so they could put it into comic form.
Well, I just wanted to clarify it was Kate Bishop Hawkeye, not Clint Barton Hawkeye.
Yeah, then we got Batman the Brave and the Bold issue 6, which, man, Gillen March, his name on that is not.
I don't see any of our names that we would want on here.
Jorge Molina is quite good as an artist, but one good artist out of, I shouldn't, because Jeff Spokes and Stefano Landini might be great. I don't know, but one name that I recognize out of like 4 artists that I like is not enough, I think, to get me that excited. But
yeah. Oh, Director Bones story in here.
Okay.
Yeah, and Rob Williams, Stefano Landini, plus a no holds barred story of Batman from Colin Kelly, Jackson Landini, Jorge Molina, in their first Batman black and white story. So yeah, so maybe then, because you said 5, right? For
I think so.
For King, and so is that meant to be like a 3-issue kind of deal, or do you think it's?
I'm not sure.
Because I don't see them on here, but stuff can change, right?
But I do wonder if it was meant to be finished by that issue. So now that things have moved around, maybe King and that will have a story in here.
Yeah.
Because everything's been pushed back. So it's hard to say. Or maybe they'll end up in every other issue, starting with issue 5 or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it'll be pretty obvious when we read the next one if it's the final part or not. But Penguin issue 3. Speaking of Tom King, his Penguin book is on issue 3 in October. We got Harley Quinn 33, which has a Lola Rabbit version of.
It's very Who Framed Roger Rabbit to me.
Well, it's just a Lola Bunny is what I was getting at.
No, I know that too, but just her as with the detective hat, kind of fedora.
Oh sure,
Yeah.
For all the furries out there who want to splurge over Harley Rabbit, you've got a chance.
As I say, no judging. You dropped that phrase, so.
I wasn't judging.
Yes, I know, but just me saying no judging as you're yelling that word is.
Let the splurge flow free. As long as the one's being hurt. Although actual bunnies can't consent. I want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Just,
well, Poison Ivy. This cover looks great.
Oh yeah, Poison Ivy 15.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like is that Killer Croc that's there with Ivy on the cover?
I think so, but based off of pre-Night Terrors ongoings. That's where it was heading, it looked like.
Oh, look at this next thing.
No! That was a yes, no if I've ever seen it.
Oh, yeah, there's ups and downs here. So, we have a book called Wesley Dodd's The Sandman Issue 1. It is the first issue of a 6-issue miniseries written by Robert Venditti. This all sounds quite good. It sounds like an excellent time. Sandman has just been reintroduced in Night Terrors. I'd be quite into this, and I may still try it. However, the art is Riley Rosmo.
Here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's more like the Batman Shadow, Riley Rosmo.
Well, to be fair, Matt, he did do the cover, and that cover doesn't look bad.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That looks like Batman Shadow that we read, that mini. So, hopefully it's like this. I realize I haven't read a lot of Sandman Wesley Dodds, and so I started looking. Do we know if the Sandman Mystery Theater books are in print right now?
Oh, I have no idea.
Shoot,
no idea.
Because the fact that this is coming out now makes me wonder if they're going to start reprinting them.
I don't think I've ever read any Wesley Dodds Sandman books, but that's why this is exciting to me. I love these types of characters coming back for things like this.
Yes.
So not that he's necessarily back. I mean, I don't know if this is this may just be set during the time period. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mini too, so it could be at any point in his career.
But I can see a theme at play here because we also have Jay Garrick The Flash issue 1, written by Jeremy Adams, who just obviously wrapped up his Flash run with art by Diego Ortega. Really cool cover. This is Jay and his daughter on the cover. Cool. Yep. Also a 6-issue miniseries. These sound like one-shots. This is kind of cool. These are all miniseries. And there's a third one. We've got Alan Scott, Green Lantern issue 1. This is written by Tim Sheridan and art by Cian Tormey. I do really like that cover, which is by David Talaski.
Yep.
I'll admit, Tim Sheridan, didn't he do like some of those Tim Drake books early on?
He did the Titans Academy.
Ah, okay. So I'm not super enthusiastic by his name, but I'll give it a try because I want to read an Alan Scott book.
I mean, and that cover, the Art Deco-ness of the border behind him, it screams just Justice Society to me. Yeah. So
that said, though, that's the cover artist who's not the interior artist, so...
Yeah, but we like Tormey. Tormey's pretty decent.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying it won't look like that, though.
Yeah. No, yeah, but like it feels like it's... If that's what the vibe they're going for is classic Justice Society, maybe that's Sheridan's bread and butter and we don't know it yet.
Yeah, maybe. We got Wonder Woman issue 2. That's right. You know what? I forgot that we're getting a new Wonder Woman Tom King run.
I love that cover.
And Josie Campbell's doing the backup. I mean, these are all good things. Obviously, the Josie Campbell thing's probably tying into the Amazon's attack, given that it's also the same artist. So that's fair enough. We got
so it looks like there's some villains in the bracelet reflections.
Oh yeah, I can see them. Yeah,
it looks like Dr. Poison there, but yeah, that's such a good cover. Sampierre killing it.
Yep. Sampierre's excellent. We got the Flash issue 2 by Cy Spurrier and Mike Diodato Jr. Also an interesting cover. It's definitely doing something different, so we'll see. New character debut, so make sure if you're getting this physically to get your pre-orders in. The Stillness is making a debut.
Cool. Just keep the Still Force away right now.
That doesn't mean they're using the Still Force.
No, please. I'm just saying we can do. Don't.
There's no mention of Still Force in the text, so I think you can rest easy. I think.
This is a nice cover.
We have the eagerly anticipated Superman issue 7/850, which I get what they're doing here. Honestly, legacy numbering on the cover, you can keep that there forever, DC. Thank you very much. But yeah, so obviously this is issue 850 overall if you add up all the main Superman comics together. It's issue 7 of this run, though, which is Joshua Willamson with Gleb Melenkov, Dan Jurgens, and others. Yeah, it's a Jamal Campbell cover, which, they've had some Jamal Campbell covers before.
I love this cover a whole lot. Just the way that it's playing with the light and the birds. It's just, yeah.
Notably, he's not in interiors for this issue, but, I don't know if he's just taking a break before he gets back to another arc, or if he's just off the book after the initial arc. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, so that's cool. And it's a little bit oversized. It's 48 pages, $6. So, yeah. We get Action Comics 1058. That's only part of a cover, I think, which probably means they're hiding a spoiler from a previous issue, would be my guess.
Well, if you read what the issue's about, then I'm sure I realize who that is.
Superman.
An imposter tyrant Superman.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
I don't want to get too much into it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who stays away from the...
Gotcha, but who knows what that means? Is it, an actual, or is it just Clark, coming at terms with something? We don't know. That said, the backup I'm very excited for.
Yeah, we got a Jean Lin Yang written backup, which I'm going to assume is New Superman.
With Victor Bogdanovich on art, so that's putting that team back together.
That is quite cool, actually. That's taking us back to the start of Rebirth.
Yep. Man, I love that book so much. We'll talk about Keenan in action. I miss that character so much.
We got Power Girl issue 2, which is Leah Williams and Eduardo Pansica.
My goodness, is that a Gary Frank cover?
It is a Gary Frank cover, yeah.
Let's go.
Very good. We got Shazam issue 4. Do you know what's the weird thing is, because a lot of these books took 2 months off after 2 issues, I'm shocked that we're only getting issue 4 solicits, but that's why. But yeah, that was cool. Also a nice cover, to be honest. There's a lot of nice covers so far. Yeah. Steelworks issue 5, penultimate issue of that miniseries. We got Hawk Girl issue 4. After you weren't here for issue 1, were you?
Yeah, I was.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you weren't. It was Connor who was being the downer.
Yeah, Connor was in it. I liked it. It was okay. It was a nice first issue. We're gonna have Hot Girl versus Dragon, so let's go.
We got Titans issue 4, so that's going. We got a big Amanda Waller in the background, peering down over everyone.
And Gar with a bunch of animals in a rainforest. I liked it. Without Waller in the back, I really just like the vibe of that. With her there, it adds a sense of ominousness. So.
Oh, it was a menace, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We get Cyborg issue 4, which is 4 of 6. We have World's Finest Teen Titans issue 4. So that's still going. We got Tales of the Titans issue 4, which is the last of those, and does actually set up a little bit of the next little crossover event. Yep. We got Green Lantern issue 4, which notably has a Flash on the cover as well.
And a co-writer. Well, it must be the backup. Never mind. That's and a co-writer, but probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Peter Tomasi. When was the last time he did something with DC?
I don't know, but I love Tomasi Green Lantern. So
it's been a while. So that is cool. We got Green Lantern War Journal issue 2, which this is the second ongoing Green Lantern book featuring John Stewart by Philip Kennedy Johnson. Which I'm looking forward to. As much as I didn't really like the backups he did, it was less because of the concepts and more just because I felt like there wasn't enough pages to actually tell what he was trying to do. So I'm looking forward to him being able to flesh it out with an actual book. Blue Beetle issue 2 makes sense. We got Fire and Ice Welcome to Smallville issue 2 by Joanne Stader and Terry Dodson. We got Green Arrow issue 5.
Oh boy.
That's a lot of Oliver Queens on the cover.
Hey, but there's a variant cover by Alvaro Martinez Bueno from Nice House on the Lake.
Oh, I mean, that's nice.
See what that look like. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what the next couple issues of that are like. Obviously, we would not been super hot on it. Doom Patrol, Unstoppable Doom Patrol issue 7, which is the final issue of that miniseries, coming out in October. I do really hope that leads to more, but obviously been really digging that book. So cool. Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom Special Issue 1. There's
Hard pass. No offense. Yeah.
There's talks of that movie being delayed for several months, so we'll see if this book still follows coming out. But yeah.
Yeah.
We got Return of Superman 30th Anniversary Special Issue 1.
AKA let Dan Jurgens do his thing. You know.
Yeah, to celebrate the reign of Superman and Return of Superman, DC has brought back the original classic creative teams for new stories set in the wake of Superman's death. It all begins with new Daily Planet editor-in-chief Lois Lane discovering Perry White's journals from that time. So they're kind of tying it loosely into modern continuity.
You know what though? I kind of like that though. I mean, and he gives it a wraparound kind of thing. An excuse to jump back in the past.
It's given it a framework to tell its short stories in.
That's the word I was looking for, was a framework.
I will say, I expect these stories to mostly be fluff. Maybe my guess. Like a lot of these, this is an 80-page special they're doing. I'm not going to say I won't read it though. It kind of just depends how busy that week is. But, having a loose tie to the present day continuity does make it feel at least a little bit more... I wouldn't say important. I wouldn't say that, but it feels a bit more, I don't know, just connected, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and now because of this, I just realized that it drops on Halloween, which means it's going to be on a Tuesday, which that kind of bums me out. Halloween's on a Tuesday.
You gotta wait another 3 or 4 years for the weekend again, Matt. Sorry.
I know.
Probably 3. I'm sure there's a leap year before then.
A leap year somewhere, yeah.
All American Comics Issue 16 Facsimile Edition. Detective Comics 140 Facsimile Edition, Batman Beyond Neo Gothic Issue 4, Batman White Knight Presents Generation Joker Issue 6, City Boy Issue 6, final issue of that, Danger Street Issue 10, super pumped for that.
Hey, that's a cool cover too. It looks,
yeah.
Like it.
I was bummed you weren't here to talk about the last one, because it felt like a lot of threads were starting to converge a little bit in it, so looking forward to talking about the next one.
Yes, sir.
Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Redder, Issue 4. Justice Society of America, Issue 8. Which is cool. Mad Magazine 35. Peacemaker Tries Hard, Issue 6. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, 124. Spirit World, Issue 6. Superman Lost, Issue 7. Imagine feeling like you're in this weird section that's after the facsimile editions. Like, there's a really, what they consider not necessarily bad, because Danger Street's in here, but just like the weird batch at the end. The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, Issue 11. The Sandman Universe, Nightmare Country, The Glass House, Issue 6. The Vigil, Issue 6, final issue of that as well.
That's just a panel from the last issue we read.
It is, yes. I mean, maybe there's spoilers in the cover, or it's just not done yet. It's also
not done yet. But I was just like, that looks familiar. Yeah.
Waller versus Whalestorm issue 4. And that wraps up the single issues. There's a deluxe edition of Strange Adventures coming out. So that's probably going to be a hot seller, I imagine. Yeah. Nightwing Volume 4, The Leap. 4th volume of Taylor's run. Dark Knights of Steel Volume 2. Second half of that book. So cool. Which one day will finish in single form, I believe it.
Eventually.
Poison Ivy Volume 2. Multiversity Harley Quinn screws up the DCU. Vixen NYC Volume 3. Zatanna and the Ripper Volume 2.
That doesn't look like Giles.
Yeah, you knew I'd make that joke if you didn't.
I know.
Teen Titans Go to the Library. Very good. Danger Street Volume 1 softcover for 6 issues. Absolute Luthor Joker, new edition, so it's the 2.
I feel like those 2 books are along those, as long as they keep them in print. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. They clearly always sell. So, Archimaniacs. That's a good title. It's a new printing, but it's a very good title. Batman Eternal Omnibus, new edition.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, well, you see the names, right? It's Snyder and Tynan, and then you look at all the artists that are here.
Well, if it's
And
a
they're
weekly
all-
comic, you got to have at least 4 rotating artists, if not more.
No, yeah, but when you look at the names here, right? Fabic, Wynn, I didn't know Seeley drew. Right?
I wonder
But then
if
you got
that-
Blanco.
Is that a mistake, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe? Because Higgins is there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Blanco's there, Alvaro Martinez, so...
Do you know, I only ever read the first like handful of issues. One
I
day,
remember I got to one where the art was super not my thing, and I stopped.
yeah.
So, and it was Batgirl focused, so maybe I got through like the first 12.
It was a tough sell, but I think the idea of binging an omnibus does. I like that more, I think, than at the
Weekly.
time. Admittedly, I think if this existed now for our show, it'd probably be quite a good constant staple every week to read. But I think at the time it felt like a bit of a burden to keep up with.
Yeah.
Batman Volume 5 Fear State, softcover. Batman Catwoman, softcover. Batman Gotham After Midnight, the deluxe edition. Do you know what? That's actually an interesting deluxe to put out, so fair enough.
I was gonna say, which one is Gotham After Midnight? Is that a...
Isn't that the like supernatural investigator story stuff from like during the New 52? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think so. This is
No?
Kelly Jones and it's Steve
you're right.
Niles. So seems familiar, but I'm not too quite
Was that
sure.
Gotham by Midnight that was called?
Yeah, I believe that's
Yeah,
that
okay,
one.
that's
is
what I'm
Gotham
thinking
by
of.
Midnight. Yeah.
Okay, in that case I don't really know what this is then.
Yeah.
But fair enough. Batman Harley and Ivy, which is a Denny Bruce Timm collection of stories. Batman Killing Time softcover. Dark Knight's Death Metal Omnibus. That's not a surprise they're doing that. So obviously it's Death Metal and all the tie-ins in one big, huge hardcover. 968 pages to be precise. Batman Dark Knight Detective Volume 8. I'm glad they're going with these. So Dark Knight Detective is the fairly meaty collections, about 350 pages a pop, of Detective Comics post-Crisis. And then the other one, which is called... Oh, I can't remember what that one's called, but there's another one that's the same, but for the Batman comic. And they've been keeping them going now, so they're up to Volume 8, which is really cool, because it means you can read every issue of Batman and Detective, starting from post-Crisis all the way up to... Yeah. Whatever. It does skip a couple of key things. It skips, like, Year 1.
Well, makes sense. That's a standalone.
Yeah.
You know, you can pick that up anytime. I like this Matt Wagner cover, though. It's very pulpy.
Oh, yeah, it's nice, it's nice. So I just like, for conservation's sake, them all being available. Green Lantern Kyle Rayner Rising Compendium is a 700-page softcover which features Green Lantern 0 and then issues 48 through 65, and then just a spattering of issues that tie into those things and other places he shows up. So this, I assume this is just the like his initial Green Lantern run.
The introduction to the Crab Mask.
Yes, that glorious, glorious Crab Mask.
Screams 90s.
If masks were porn, that would be the mask.
Oh, God.
Green Lantern Silver Age Omnibus, New Edition, Volume 1. Yeah, they've done this a couple of times, actually. This is like the third print of this, at least. 1,000 pages, has issues 1 to 35, plus a few issues of Showcase where you actually get introduced. Which is actually bigger, because I think the initial omnibuses of this, because I actually had them, the first one only went up to issue like 22, so they're definitely bigger than the old versions, so they'll be getting through the entire thing quicker, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000 pages, don't drop it on your foot, people.
Oh, of course not, no. Hardware Season 1, there's a lot of collections this one, jeez. Infinite Crisis, New Edition, fair enough. It's a hardcover, not deluxe though, just a regular hardcover. Justice League Volume 2, United Order, this is the Bendis Justice League run. Nubia and the Amazons, softcover. Superman Son of Kal-El Volume 2, softcover. Superman The Silver Age Omnibus Volume 1. So this is not a new printing, this is actually the first of this, because they're doing the bronze, or not the bronze, sorry, the Golden Age.
Yeah.
So this is them finally doing Silver Age. They've done one or two Batman Silver Ages. So this is the first Superman one. So this is collecting Action 241 to 265 and Superman 122 to 137. So again, for preservation's sake and having everything available, it's really nice that they've got these and they're keeping them going. Invisibles Book 2, new edition. Yep. The Question Omnibus by Dennis O'Neill and Dennis Cowan, Volume 2. So I think when they did the Volume 1 Omnibus, I think a lot of people were rightfully skeptical if it would sell enough to get the second volume. I'm glad that it has, though.
Yeah, and here we are.
Yeah. Trial of the Amazons, softcover collection. Young Justice Omnibus Volume 1. This doesn't say new edition, but it is, because I know it already existed.
Yeah.
But 1,200 pages on this bad boy. This is... Oh, no, no.
How do you read that?
Wait a minute. No. This didn't already exist. John's Teen Titans was already in Omnibus form. This is new.
Okay, then there was a deluxe, because I know I read the...
There was a series of... Maybe there was deluxes too, but there was definitely a series of thick paperbacks that did the whole thing in, like, I don't know, however many volumes.
Yeah,
so
that's what I mean by those. And it was like Young Justice by
Peter David.
Peter David. Yeah.
So this
I read those.
1,200 pages has that. The first half of that run, I guess. Yeah. No, I mean, if you've got an omnibus, Matt, you read it on a table. It's just, have the.
But like, all I can think about is bending the spine, just because it's so much. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why you have sewn binding, because it's designed to arc up and.
Yeah.
That's why people criticised the first few omnibuses DC did like a decade ago, is because they didn't have sewn binding and it was a big problem. But as long as you've got good binding, that's actually not an issue at all.
But yeah, you gotta take this to like a hefty table. You put this on, just a regular. You're gonna go through it like a wrestler, in a ladder match. Oh. Oof.
You're overdoing this a bit, Matt.
I'm just saying, I don't know if my kitchen table could uphold this one.
It bloody could. Anyway, last up's one more omnibus. Zero Hour Crisis in Time Omnibus, new edition. That's just under 1,100 pages for this one, so happy days.
We're good now.
Sometimes I miss collecting these chunky books, but they cost a fortune, and then they'd sit there for ages before I'd read them if I ever do. So, from a financial standpoint, I made the right choice. But
yes,
but it's cool. I appreciate them all existing. That's a good thing. So, all right, there you go. There's the solicitations. So there was one new surprise in there for us, which was the Sandman Wesley Dodds book, which was immediately met with, "Oh no, it's Riley Rosmo." But I am excited for a lot of the books that already started in September or August. And I'm definitely excited for the Supergirl special and some of those other things that popped up. Obviously, the Kelly Thompson book, Molineth, and really. So, yeah, there you go. That's solicits for October. So, without further ado, we'll get into this week's comics, starting with Night Terrors Issue 2, Joshua Willamson writing with Stefano, Nesi, Caspar, Wijngaard, and Giuseppe Camuncoli on the art. So it's the same trio of artists, I think, from last issue.
From issue 1.
From issue 1. And I will say, much like last time, although I think it was even worse this time, I was like, the first few pages, I like this art, and then it changed, and I'm like, okay, that was a bit jarring, and then it changed again, and I am not shitting you, the last 2 pages of this book, when it shifted to this sort of dark scene where it's just black and red, I could not tell what I was looking at. I had to adjust my eyes for a minute to eventually see that there was people standing there, because it was just a mess of red lines on black. So basically what I'm saying is, as far as art's concerned, I'm not ranking this highly at all.
Nope. I'm with you on that one, and I'm wondering if it's because there's those, I think they're Win covers that are red and black. Let's see. Let me go to this week's.
Yeah, I think it was a Dustin one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a take on. But yeah, I couldn't tell, am I supposed to know who these characters are? I know they're the Sleepless Knights, but you can't really get a sense of them.
Yeah. They're just the Sleepless Knights, Matt. That's all they are.
No, I know, but Are these supposed to, if you're reading the other Night Terrors, are these supposed to be reminiscent of you know, nightmares that are popping up in all the other heroes' dreams and stuff? You know, like, is that where Insomnia is pulling them from?
Well, we've read most of those, and I don't recognize them, so.
Right, but in the moment, that's what I was wondering. I will give Williamson credit here on a, you know, tying Insomnia to some of the modern events that have happened, right? Like the whole Arkham Tower, the Lazarus Reign, all this other stuff. It's not like it's some guy from the deep past like we were worrying about it being. So
I mean, I like the first page, which was kind of Deadman doing like a talk show, kind of welcoming us back to the story. I like the first few pages of Sandman and Deadman in Batman's body, like discussing what's going on. Unfortunately, though, as soon as Sandman started talking about his experience with this cult, where he first heard of the Nightmare Stone back in the Golden Age days, I really started to be like, hate it. And honestly, like, I've been saying for for First Blood, for issue 1, I was like, I'm kind of into the main story well enough, but Williamson usually lets me down eventually. Unfortunately, issue 2 is where that has landed for me.
Oh man, I mean, I'm a sucker for a robed up cult story. You know, like I like them as foils. So seeing like they were trying to pull the Nightmare Stone.
I should probably clarify. It wasn't necessarily the first time we see the cult. Like, that part of it was okay. It was when we get to the living descendant of the cult and we see into his nightmare, and we do a whole bit with him and Insomnia coming to like mess with him and his nightmare, thinking he might know where the Nightmare Stone is. Like, we spend several pages with this like character who's, you know, tangentially related to what's going on, with Nightmare going after them. There was just nothing interesting about it, and I felt like I don't know, it took up so much of the issue. It felt like it was kind of wallowing in like its own little corner of mythology that I just did not like or think was that exciting.
I mean, I like that he explodes into coins like a Mario character. That was pretty cool. No? I just like the Sandman stuff with him, you know, going back into time, and like it was a case that he, you know, was investigating, and he thinks that he foils this ritual sacrifice, but no, the whole point was the cult leader was sacrificing himself to bring about the Nightmare Stone. I like that little wrinkle, you know. And again, the pulpiness there. And then just Insomnia's origin of, you know, he exists not as, he's not one of these characters that, you know, oh, he's in the background, or he's from, you know, Dead Man's past or whatever. It's, you know, his powers were awakened because of, you know, he was in Arkham Tower, and the Lazarus Reigns, you know, aggravated whatever. And that's where he comes from. So
yeah, we knew that from last issue.
Right, but the fact that he was a new character, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, you know, it was something that we weren't expecting. So credit there. I think I do like the look of him with the red eyes, right? Like, I do think that's a pretty unique, you know, like his real world version. You know, it gives that guy a creepiness factor instead of just being a dude in a orderly chair. So
I mean, I wasn't super into that when it happened, though, which is Deadman, like, sort of, like, feeling pain and then be like, oh, I'm still connected to Insomnia because of what happened.
Yeah, that was
before.
a bit of a laziness.
I think that bothers me because it feels like a bit of an easy device, but it also bothered me because the art in these pages, I think, is where it's maybe at its... Maybe, I don't know if it's the worst of the book, but it's certainly where I felt like... I was less into it. I was really feeling jarred versus like the earlier pages, and then, you know, it's right after that where we get the lights go out and it's like, oh, the sleepless nights are here, and it's just, I mean, and Red Tornado is infected with them. He's evil.
Well, yeah, that's what I don't get. Like, because they, you know, we see that and he's talking and said that you should have stayed in Arkham, and then it's revealed, like, this sleepless night ripped off his head through his spine. I'm like, he's an android, he'll be fine. But how are they talking to him? Are we looking for logic in a nightmare? Like, is this what we're doing?
He's holding up Red Tornado's head, and he's sort of spines dangling from it. But the speech bubble's coming from Red Tornado, saying it's way past your bedtime, and it's kind of ominous, like he's the villain. So it feels like he's the villain here. This Sleepless Night's holding him up and using him as a puppet to like lure Deadman or Sandman towards them. Which is fine, I guess. But honestly, it took me a minute to really think about what happened in these last 2 pages, because it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it felt really sloppy to me. If storytelling's conveying information so it just clicks as soon as you get it, then this is like a failure on that level, because I had to really stop and think about what the hell was even going on at the end here. Yeah, this was a rough issue for me. We spend a good chunk in the middle with this, like, son of this old cult leader at his mansion having a weird nightmare, and Somni is there and kills him and turns them into coins. And I feel like if you took that out of the book, right? If it was just Sandman says, hey, there was this cult, they tried to bring the Nightmare Stone into the world, and they failed, but it sent shivers down my spine, and I've been worried about it ever since. If that was the end of the mention of that cult, that would be fine. Like that would make sense. But everything with this son character, I'm like, this is just like padding in the middle of this issue that I don't think adds anything to what's going on.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, because that has no bearing on anything that happens later.
No, and if you
it's just insomnia popping in,
and if you do take that out and you look at what actually happens in the issue, aside from that, like it is literally just Deadman and Dodge talk a bit at the grave, and then they talk a bit on the Watchtower they're on? Where are they? Is it the Watchtower? No, it's Mr. Terrific's base. That's where it is. They go to Mr. Terrific's base, and then they talk for a bit, and these villains show up. Like, that is it. That is the extent of what's going on in this issue. For an event that only has effectively 5 issues to tell its story, it feels really weird to me that this issue felt like mostly padding. And it's a shame, because I really liked the Wesley Dodge revival in the last issue. I was excited by that. And I feel like here, all he did was give some exposition, and he's just kind of hanging around. And maybe he'll do something super important in the next 2, and that's fine. But nothing of importance really happens in this issue. This is a fluffy dud issue with bad art. Well, not that all the art's bad, but it's extremely inconsistent and jarring art.
Yeah, it was to the point where, like, we started talking about it, and I had to just go refresh, because I remembered all the Sandman stuff, because that's the stuff I enjoyed. But when you started talking about the back, the last 2 pages with the red and the black, I kind of forgot about it, because it didn't make that much of an impact, because I was just like, all right, get through it. So yeah, I thought I had enjoyed it more, but then I remembered what I read. So it is kind of like a nightmare, right? Like,
oh, what a review.
Yeah. So we rating?
Yeah, I don't really have much more to say. I guess the cliffhanger is also a bit of a dud, not just because it's a bit weird and confusing, because these villains just show up out of nowhere that we've never seen before. At least maybe they've popped in the tie-ins, but like nothing memorable. But I think it's just because, okay, so Insomnia's got effectively henchmen to like come and like fight when he can't come into the real world. Okay, I guess that makes sense, but it's also like, you've not really devoted any time to building them up or making them scary. They've just shown up out of nowhere, and it's almost like it's a comic book. Of course the villain has henchmen. Well, okay, fine, but that doesn't make them interesting. Doesn't make them exciting. It makes them feel like just a typical trope, so we can have some more fights.
No, if we saw them tearing stuff up in the real world because they've escaped the Nightmare Realm, and then we see them again at the end, and we're like, oh man, what's Deadman gonna do?
Yeah, or even just the idea that there's some ominous figures like on their way, like they're looking for the heroes, and we're getting closer a little bit throughout the issue, and then they show up at the end. At least then it'd be a payoff, and it'd be like, okay, you've built up a bit of dread. We'll see how this goes next issue. Instead, it just feels like you're throwing them in almost out of nowhere just to keep these characters busy. And it's a shame, because I feel like you could do something with, this is like Deadman and Wesley Dodds and a bunch of like C-listers who aren't the Justice League having to deal with maybe some very powerful antagonists. That could be interesting if you really set up that threat. But as it is, they just kind of feel like nothing characters that are just thrown in at the end. So whatever, I don't care.
True.
Impress me, Williamson.
Hey, just keep writing some cool pulpy stuff, and I'll in the first half, and I'll be happy for a little bit. I'm okay with that. But also, what's Todd's knockout gas gonna do against these nightmare creatures? Right? Like, it's zombie Wesley Dodds in a Batman piloted by an acrobat, right? Because it's not like it's Bruce fighting them.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like, what are they gonna do? So, and then it's not the type of cliffhanger, you kind of already said that excites me for the next issue. And we're no closer to figuring out where the Nightmare Stone is. Like, this is halfway through now.
Yeah, we're halfway
right?
through this entire, 2-month event, and yeah.
There's been no clue on which of the nightmares of the heroes it's in.
And not maybe it'll become more clear by the end, but not a single tie-in so far has felt important to the main story. Not a single one. So, anyway, what are you rating Night Terrors issue 2, Matt?
It's 5.5.
Yeah, I'll hit this with a 4. That sucks.
Oof.
So, can't wait for issue 3. Oh dear. I hate being negative because Connor is going to feel like he's vindicated by being so negative, and I don't like that. I don't want Connor to be rewarded for his cynicism.
No, me neither.
I want to be rewarded when I'm cynical correctly, but I don't want him to be rewarded for cynicism.
Man, alright, what book is next?
Night Terrors Detective Comics Issue 1, Dan Waters and Riccardo Federici. So, first off, the art is obviously that's just, if we're comparing this to Night Terrors Issue 2, the art is consistent and it is always very, very high quality. Let's just say that up front.
For sure. And this actually felt like a nightmare. Like, reading it. Like, Dan Waters does some really good setup of dream logic, where it felt very ethereal in parts.
I think Mark Waid had a slightly better handle of dream logic. Mm-hmm. I will say that this is one of the better written tie-ins that this entire event's had. I think it reads well, it flows, and it actually feels like a full story as opposed to just changing the location every 3 pages because it's a dream and we can. It feels like, no, we're setting up a status quo that Gordon, because it's a Jim Gordon story, that he's in. He's looking after this kid from the backups, right? Sorrow, yeah. And it delves into a little bit, and I think there's even some red herrings where the book starts with he's looking at James Gordon Jr.'s grave, and it's going to be about him, and maybe he'll turn out to be something later, but at least so far it feels like no, it sets up its story, the art's really good, it's got atmosphere. I still think it suffers by the end a little bit from feeling like, I don't know, and this is really not this book's fault, it's more just the feeling of the event as a whole, where by the end, once there is more horrific things happening, I'm still just kind of feeling like, okay, it's still just a Night Terrors tie-in. It's as good as it is compared to a lot of the other ones.
But I want to give Waters credit here that he's trying something to tell a story about Jim Gordon as Batman and as this person of Gotham, right? Because there are pieces of the story that add up to, I can see what he wants to do. Right, so you have all the stuff with the people that go pray to these dark figures from the from the fifth dimension, right, and what they represent, and what that represents to Gordon as the former commissioner of the city. So I like all of that stuff.
Yeah, you've not established what's going on in the book yet. You just thrown out fifth dimensional figures. We have to set this up. So so this story. It shows Insomnia kind of like moving the buildings around. It's probably the best Insomnia's looked actually in any of these books. As these like things where he looks really huge and he's like moving the buildings around. But there's this unknown narrator saying we are being summoned, and you're like, who's this? Who is this talking? And it turns out to be these creatures from the fifth dimension. Which in this world there's this like cult who are trying to summon them to Gotham, and Gordon is looking after this kid's sorrow. They end up, he senses something's going on and runs after this ritual that's happening, and these creatures show up and stuff happens, right? I think at least the way I read this, it sounds like these fifth dimensional creatures are not just part of a nightmare. It sounds like they're real fifth dimensional creatures And that's why we're getting narration from them. Like, them saying we are being summoned, and it shows you Insomnia playing with this nightmare world. It kind of implies that Insomnia is the one who's really summoned them into this nightmare.
Well, or what he's done by knocking out everybody, right? And making them fall asleep drew the attention of the fifth dimensional beings.
Yeah, or arguably maybe just the nightmare that Gordon's having. Like, there's like parts of his mind that are summoning them. Either way, it didn't feel like they were just like made up parts of a nightmare. It felt like they were a real thing coming in outside from a nightmare, and that inherently made them more interesting than any other villain that's been in any of these nightmare like tie-ins. Right. So, you know, like I think that's one of the reasons why it felt better and was definitely more enjoyable to read. Plus the art in these like fifth dimensional creatures, like, it's horrific. They're like, it's like one's like half a face and then just spiky bones underneath, and another one's got like stitching across its mouth. Like they look like I don't know, H.R. Giger spent a year in Mad Max and came up with these like stripped down versions of his monstrosities.
For sure. Did you get any like Hellraiser kind of vibes too?
Oh yeah, a little bit of Cenobite. Yeah.
There we go. I couldn't remember the name of those.
Yeah, little Cenobite. I can see that.
Right, from that realm.
Especially the summoning part, because it feels like they're being summoned, like the Cenobites are.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's these three like people in like red masks who are summoning them, and it's because they think Gotham needs to be saved, and they want the power from the fifth dimensional creatures to fix Gotham. And I've got a feeling one of them might turn out to be James Gordon Jr. just because of the setup at the start of the book.
Of the nightmare.
Yeah.
Of it all. But yeah, right, because they want, what was it, power,
wealth, and
knowledge.
Yeah, there you go. How's it?
Right. Which also, so when you look about it, it's also, to me, I read this as a criticism of Batman, right? From like Jim Gordon, right?
Oh, sure,
he doesn't,
yeah.
You know, because these are three things that Batman has, and they haven't fixed any of the problems in Gotham.
I don't think, like, obviously Gordon necessarily knows he's wealthy. Maybe he thinks he is.
No.
Because, you know.
Yeah, well, look at all the gadgets and stuff, right?
He's got a lot of stuff.
And just, even as his time as a Batman, which he touches on here, you know, he had all the backing of the, whatever program that was that turned him into Batman, too.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And let's be fair, that's the part that I didn't like as much towards the end.
Yeah.
There's this demonic version of Robo Bunny Batman that Gordon wore.
The Rookie.
Yeah. So, you know, I wasn't thrilled to see that. Although the idea of Gordon having to chase down this horrific version of Batman and himself is kind of interesting. But that's what happens ultimately. But the big thing that happens before that is that Sorrow gets killed. He gets incinerated by these fifth dimensional beings.
Yep.
And Gordon gets knocked out and he wakes up. And I love, like, this is a great writing technique. Dan Waters here, he's got like Gordon's narration saying sorrow, like once in each panel. And then Gordon says eventually it wasn't even just saying the name. He's literally just describing the feeling. You know, it kind of works both ways, and it was kind of a nice little little thing. Honestly, Gordon's voice in this is pretty good. Like, I like how early on he talks about how Barbara like just knows when to send him a text saying she cares about him. Like, you know, it's just, he's always on the brink of breaking down because of everything that's happened to him.
But yeah,
you know, with his son, with the city, whatever it is. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. But yeah, just, you know, his nightmare of it being, you know, the things that he's failed the city and what he thought, you know, so that was the other thing that I took from it was the idea like you just can't throw knowledge, wealth, and power at Gotham and expect it to fix things, right? It takes more than that, and that's where he's kind of frustrated with, because like how can one man make a change in Gotham? But you know, Batman has, right? Like, you can argue if it was for good or for bad, and that's what the best Batman stories kind of are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the thing that's missing here in this list is empathy, which is something that Batman and Gordon both have. And I think, you know, Gordon's seeing this version of like people who don't have that and just want the others. And not even that, they're not even earning the others. They're just trying to, like, you know, get them in a quick, you know, swoop.
Because he figures out, right, the one of the people, she's the lady that starts coughing up the diamonds. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that how you took that too? because I read this pretty late, so my brain wasn't at 100%. But he had figured out that she was maybe one of the people that had summoned these things.
Oh yeah, so because she coughed up the diamonds, and he talks a few times in the issue about the rich versus the poor of Gotham, and it kind of comes back into it when he realizes that these diamonds it leads them to this particular woman who lives in this fancy apartment building, and the other big thing towards the end of the issue that we've not really mentioned yet is that Gordon's hand starts cracking like it's made of glass or like porcelain, and as we get further in the issue. And he's trying to stop the evil bat demon thing. The art here is gorgeous, but his hand starts to crack and smash more until he's almost lost it. And then eventually, he does actually end up losing like a hand. His leg starts to crack. But he goes to see this woman, Angelica. And then there's diamonds all over the floor. She starts coughing up diamonds. And there's that great panel with the diamonds all coming out of her mouth. Yeah, which actually, so I said that the diamonds tracked her down. That's not true. The diamonds don't pop up until he gets to her. But he tracks her down. There's a piece of evidence. I can't remember what it was, but something led him to her. And, he's trying to, get her to cough up the diamonds, not to speak, because obviously the diamonds are going to cut her throat, right? And when he tries to, help her to, pull the diamonds out of her mouth, she bites off his 2 fingers. So he's lost 2 fingers, and that's basically the end of the issue. He's sitting next to this woman who's now seemingly dead, as the narration from the 5th dimensional being starts coming back in, because Gordon says, "You can't fall apart, old man, however much you want to." Which again, the obvious metaphor being Gordon has to keep himself together all the time, no matter all the chaos he's surrounded with. He's the straight man ultimately, and then the 5th dimensional being says, "Oh, but you can. We are glad to have given this gift to you, person of Gotham. You're the beginning to amuse us a little, at least." So that felt very Cenobite at the end, was this being smiling with that narration next to it. I mean, I think it's fair to say this might be the best single tie-in issue of the entire month.
So far, yeah?
Well, it's the last week, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I did like the Shazam one a lot. That one was pretty good.
That was probably second best. I think
it's these two by a mile.
This one feels like it actually has a story though, and it feels like it's saying something about how Gordon views himself and views Gotham and views the world, and because of that, it actually feels like a good short story on its own. The fact that it happens to be kind of in a nightmare almost feels like it's not irrelevant, because obviously things are happening that wouldn't happen to him if it was set in the the waking world, but it I don't know, it has an actual story. It doesn't just feel like it's going through a series of random events from Gordon's past, which I think is the big thing here. So many of these tie-ins are just, here's a couple pages about this part of the character's origin, here's a couple pages about this part of their past. This isn't doing that. It's it's mentioned his past, it's relevant because it's happened to him, but it's actually telling a story. We've got these new characters who are interacting and playing with them. If anything, I'm just sad this is only going to be 2 issues, because I'm not sure if you can have as good a satisfying conclusion to this as that maybe I've got in my head, that in just 1 more issue. I'm not sure. I hope it is. I hope I like it.
Was Waters doing the backups with Gordon and Sorrow? Or was that Cy Spurrier?
I think it was Spurrier. Yeah, I don't think it was Waters.
Well, because jumping into there and the stuff with Sorrow and playing into that too, it feels, like Detective Comics still, because it's still familiar.
I appreciate it, though, until Gordon starts, cracking apart. There's nothing about this that says that it's a nightmare. I think that's another big thing here, is that all the other ones immediately start doing weird things.
Yeah.
This actually sets up the foundation of the world that he's in, and the context of what this story is, and it builds up before it starts to do anything weird. And I think that's a big part of it as well. So, yeah, I think this is easily the best tie-in of any of them. Even though it's referencing the Bat Bunny thing, and I don't like that Bat Bunny robot suit. I always hated it. But even with that, it's still the best tie-in.
But you have to appreciate how it's the villain in this. Then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I would like to forget it ever happened, but every so often they like to remind me, the bastards.
Yeah. Well, the next thing's going to be is the Batman making machine that Snyder set up, and then it'll get on my nerves because I hate that thing more than most things.
Yeah. So, yeah, honestly, it's a good horror issue because the beings from the fifth dimension look really creepy. It feels like it's, you know, commenting on Gotham as well because it's talking about the one percenters and the poor. It's talking about how Gotham's weird and different because it's snowing in July and how no one even bats an eye at that anymore. Like it's doing a lot of stuff. And then on top of all that, you've got a demonic version of both him and Batman as being the villain, which is the fear that they've caused more harm than good. If nothing else, I think so. Yeah, this one's kind of good. Now, like, it doesn't save the event, obviously, but as a standalone thing, like, I'll probably wait to recommend it properly until I know what the second half is like, and then I'd recommend the 2 issues, but issue 1 is very good and very promising, so, yeah. You want to rate it, Matt?
Yeah, 7.5.
Honestly, looking through it again as we talk about it, I think I might even go as high as the 8, which is which is basically saying like astronomical praise for one of these tie-ins at this point. Okay, Action Comics, Night Terrors Action Comics issue 1. Leah Williams on the first story with Vasco Georgiev, and the second story is Philip K. Johnson, and the artist wasn't listed on Leah Comics, so I'll tell you when I get to the credits page.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so this was obviously 2 full-size stories making up this Action Comics book. And the first one, I was just kind of on. I didn't really feel much for it. This is the Power Girl story.
I like Leah Williams going through Power Girls, her psychology still, and I just don't know what to make of the story because it's a little bit too ethereal, right? Where I credited the last one, Dan Waters' detective, for having that sense of etherealness. This one just kept jumping around so much, like a dream within a dream within a dream.
Yeah, like a lot of the tie-ins have been doing. And this one has something slightly. It's got like a framing device where it's like she's in like a
Matrix kind of.
She's in like a pod, and every time the dream changes, we get, or not every time, but a few of the times in the issue, we get like a panel or a page where she's in this pod asleep and the computer's saying reset and you see some green lasers or whatever. So it feels like in the real world she's in some sort of thing that's maybe influencing her dreams for whatever reason.
And so she keeps, going back to Omen, and then you think that Omen's on her side, but then in one dream Omen, is responsible for whatever experiments going on, But yeah, it did what the other ones are doing, of jumping around a lot and, not in a good way. But I will say Georgiev's art I'm a big fan of. The clean lines and, how it plays with some of the panel breakdowns for the Nightmare stuff put me on a little bit on edge.
The art is pretty good. The coloring I liked as well. It definitely stuck out to me because I dropped the Power Girl backups and whatever because I didn't like the art back when they were a thing. So that was an interesting look. But honestly, the fact that I didn't keep up with those though probably meant I wasn't as attached to this Power Girl, so that also didn't help my enjoyment of this.
Yeah, so like I like Leah Williams' voice for Power Girl. And as she's going through this and dealing with, her own doubts, and like it feels like she still can't trust people, right? And that's where the dreams are coming from. Even her best friend Omen, because that's where it ends.
That said, though, we do get Streaky the cat blasting heat vision through Omen's stomach and making a big hole. I did enjoy that page, just for,
of course,
just for the sheer visceral violence of it.
And you love Streaky.
Yes. So. I do enjoy some cat antics.
Yes.
But the final page, this is one of these ones where the cliffhanger just annoyed me because it's like, Omen's actually like part of the evil program that's controlling the dreams, and the final page is Omen using almost like Matrix code from her fingers, like puppet strings on Power Girl, and it says program restart, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy a lot of the scenes though, even though I think they were well enough like written and whatever, but they just suffer the same problem a lot of these nightmares. So
night terrors. It's a night terrors problem. Yeah.
It's not the worst of the tie-ins, but it's far from the best one. It's kind of right in the middle of them.
I'm not dreading reading part 2. Like, I'm not dreading to see where this one goes like I am with some of the other ones.
Yeah. What's funny is that I might read part 2 of that purely because I actually like the second half of this.
Like Johnson's on a different level here.
Don't get me wrong, it does go a little too Night Towers towards the end, but a lot of this story is the super family, not including a lot of the main ones actually. So it's the two kids, it's Othel and Ozil, and it's Connor, Keenan, New Superman, and Natasha Irons, and they're watching a horror movie. It's not a real horror movie. I was trying to figure it out, but it was very clear after a bit that
when they were saying
real.
Danny, I'm like, are they watching The Shining?
That's what I thought, and then you see like someone with a chainsaw on the screen, and I'm like, okay, all right. It's just they're just mixing things. They're not.
And Natasha being like, should the kids be watching this? And Connor doing I've said before when my nieces are around, I was like, they'll learn soon enough. This is an American classic. Even look at Keenan. Keenan's learning, and he goes, yeah, Keenan, show him what you learned. And all he says is chainsaw, final girl. It just these horror movie terms I thought was funny.
And also, don't split up, I think was the other one.
Yeah, don't split up.
Just before we move on, the artist on this story was Miko Soyen and Fiko Ozio. So I'm not super familiar with those names. I did quite like the art though. Like, honestly, I could have just went an issue with them watching a scary movie together and just commenting on it. Like
100%.
That was for me. That was the fun. That said, though, I did also enjoy the kids getting scared afterwards.
Because these kids were raised on War World, right? And they have a whole different version of horror. And it's not necessarily the chainsaw guy that scares them, right? It's the idea of Cyborg Superman being able to, that chainsaw kind of representing and reminding them of Cyborg Superman and how that he attacked them even from the Phantom Zone and they'll never feel safe. And so I do like that vibe that goes through Osel and Ortho as this plays out. Yeah,
the boy wakes up dreaming of Cyborg Superman, and gets up and starts wandering around, and Kalex, who's there, is looking a bit suspicious. Like, you see Kalex watching one of them, Connor specifically, and starts quoting the movie that we're watching, and then we get some proper... It was very close encounters, actually, of like the boy walking down the hall, and there's the red light, and it reminded me a lot of that scene in Close Encounters where the lights of the ship are outside. But I thought the art here was great with him like creaking the door open and looking in. As far as just being like a horror issue goes, like I thought this had a lot of fun stuff. You set up the tone and have some fun with them watching the horror movie, and then you actually have some good creepy art of like one of the kids walking about when everyone else is asleep being scared. And then you've got the big thing that happens is Connor Kent's been turned into some weird cyborg Superman villain.
Cyborg Superboy is what I'm
Cyborg Super. That's a good name actually. That's pretty good. And he starts, talking all evil and jumping around. But then he disappears, and everyone else wakes up. And they're like, what's going on? He's like, oh, there was Connor, and he was like Cyborg Superman. And then they don't really believe him, but then they notice outside that the world has turned into a nightmare world where there's fire everywhere, there's bloody Superman symbols all over the place. And they're like, wait, this can't be real. And then the TV starts acting up, and Cyborg Superman comes out of the TV looking all like funky. Like he's especially cyborg now. He's got like one bit of a human face, and then the rest of it's just Terminator with a Superman logo.
Yeah, it's like Freddy Krueger meets Terminator, right?
Yeah. So basically they're saying that because we're in like this shared nightmare now, which by the way, like I will critique slightly here that we're playing quite fast and loose, but it was this in Titans, which we're going to talk about in a bit, where why is it some people who are in teams are dreaming together, and yet all the single character books are all just them on their... Like, it's just very wishy-washy.
Had the same... When I got to this point, after I had read Titans, I thought the same exact thing.
So I just,
I get it as a hurdle to jump as you're writing, but also we need some internal logic here.
Yeah.
You know?
It just feels that we can make it up wherever we want as it goes.
Right.
And so, yeah, the last couple pages are my least favorite because it's just like a huge, like, you know, cyborg Superman fighting people. And, I mean, yeah, you've got evil Crypto at the end as well as the cliffhanger. But, so, last couple pages I wasn't in love with, which does make me a little worried if issue 2 is just more of that. But the majority of this Philip K. Johnson story is just a stand. Like, I almost like didn't like it when they looked outside and the world had changed. I was like, you know what? Just have this be in the real world and have a fun horror story. Like, I don't need the nightmare stuff.
Yep.
But
I'm with you there.
Yeah. So, but regardless, like, I would say 90% of this story I actually really liked. It just dips a bit at the end with just the typical action bollocks that doesn't mean much.
Yeah. When we're sitting around watching horror movies, it's like a super family. And again, we haven't gotten that really until Philip Kennedy Johnson.
And it's, you know, and it's probably, you know, with all due respect to them, it's kind of the C-list members of the family, which made it a bit more fun.
Yeah. So, you know, it's not Supergirl and Superman and
John. Yeah, which
John, Lois.
Not that I would complain if any of them were there, but
no,
you know.
but I do like when it's just these ones, and you know they can tell the story. But yeah, I was like, damn, he's working on a whole different level because this also works with that whole super family side quest with the Camelot stuff.
Also,
you know,
the idea as well that Connor and Keenan are kind of becoming friends and just having some moments with them, like joking around, is nice.
Yeah, Connor, the fact too that him and Natasha seem to be really friendly too, because you know in those backups that I really wasn't enjoying from Steel, they were kind of the highlight of those two working together. So the fact that Connor's getting some friends that are outside the Young Justice kids, I appreciate.
Yeah.
So it's man, he's operating on a different level until you get to the Night Terror-y stuff.
Yeah,
just like, oh yeah,
like,
he's kind of constrained.
Like, I don't hate the idea of like all the like mechanical devices like turning into like Transformers and coming after them, but
the
it's also
cracked me up.
But it's also quite silly, and like I was kind of enjoying how not silly it was up until that point. So you know, the Night Terror's part of it that sort of creeps in those last few pages is a bit of a shame, but I did like the rest of it. I will mark it down a little bit for that. As two artists, I did think both art styles worked together, though. I don't think there was like a jarring shift to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Fico Osio worked on Hawkman too, because that name seems familiar. So, and then Miko, what was it, Suyikan?
I'm not looking at it, but that sounds right.
Yeah, you know, those are both names that I've heard before, and I'm pretty sure I enjoy. So them working together, it seems like, and melding the styles where we didn't notice too much. I'll be honest, I didn't realize it was two artists until you said something.
I don't think I did either until I looked at the names.
Yeah. So, but so props on that. But yeah, this one was the highlight of the Action Comics. Even though I'm enjoying the Leah Williams Power Girl stuff, that seemed kind of like a throwaway story. Whereas I feel like here, Philip Kennedy Johnson was like, sure, it might be a throwaway story because of Night Terrors, but I'm going to do something with the family.
Make it, he's chosen this to give us some nice little moments between some characters who don't get as much time month to month, which is nice. But let's make it clear, just something you said there, is that my critiques of that Power Girl story is really not saying anything about the ongoing Power Girl stuff.
No.
Just like the Green Lantern Night Terrors issue being garbage is not a comment on that run. It's just, you know, they're just being Night Terrors tie-ins, and unfortunately that just... You know.
And that stinks because I got excited when I saw it was a Leah Williams. Like I was wondering what Philip Kennedy Johnson was going to do here, because you know Tom Taylor really hasn't touched Night Terrors through Nightwing and his other books. So
no Taylor, no King, no Ram V on any of these.
Right. And so to see that Johnson took that, because I'm sure maybe in my head. I feel like they were given the option, and I feel like Johnson's like, I could tell like a horror story in a backup style tale. So, but no, the fact that I enjoyed the Leah Williams stuff before this, it's kind of a bummer that the story didn't add up to much, especially because of how it was playing with the dream world beforehand versus what Johnson does here by using the established family dynamics to tell a story of the family. But yeah, again, I said it different level. happy that the story exists.
All right, what are you rating Night Terrors Action Comics?
I'll give this an 8, and that's mainly for the Super Family story.
See, if I was doing just a Super Family story on its own, I'd probably go 7.5 because those last few pages drag it down. But because I have to like pair it with the other one, it's so I'm saying that so people know how I felt about that second story. But if I have to rate it overall, then I probably have to go with like a 6 because I do think that first one drags it down significantly. So, take that for what you will. But yeah, I did enjoy the Johnson story by and large, though. So cool. Before we move on, though, them watching their fake horror movie reminded me. Matt, have you watched the 1988 version of The Blob yet?
I have not. Is it streaming anywhere? Because I'll make it a priority.
I have no idea, but okay. I implore you to do it. I thought of it because there's a scene in that movie where some kids have snuck into a slasher film that is a knockoff Friday the 13th, and it has one of the funniest lines I have ever heard in a movie. So I had it during October.
It was in my queue on one of the streaming services, and I went to watch it, and it was gone. They had moved it. Now, unfortunately, it's only for rental right now. But
well, rent it. It's worth it.
Yes.
You'll thank me.
Yeah. I did watch the original one a couple of years ago off of your recommendation, and I did enjoy it.
The original's fun, but the 88 version is so good. It is so much better. Anywho, there you go. That's Night Terrors Action Comics. Night Terrors Titans issue 1. Andrew Constant with Scott Godlewski on art.
Not enough start. Look, there's two characters that I fan out for on this show that I catch flack for a lot, and one of them used to be Connor Kent too. But it's Poison Ivy, right? It's Pam, and it's Starfire. This issue did not have enough Starfire. All right.
Well, I think my issues. There's a few issues I have with this book. The premise of this is that a woman who I actually thought was Raven at the start of the book.
Bro, so did I.
Yeah.
I was like, this has to be Rachel. Yeah. Right? It's not Raven. It's her human side, right?
Yeah,
she's somehow unaffected by the Night Terrors.
She doesn't have like her current hairstyle, but I still just thought it was Raven because I was like, who else could it be? And then later on in the book, it's like, oh no, Raven's talking. Like, there's a voice talking to her in her head, and later on we find out that's Raven. And I'm like, wait, is this like some sort of weird thing where Raven's talking to herself? And I still think it might turn out to be that. But as of right now, this is a mysterious young woman who for some reason is trapped in this nightmare version of Titan's Tower and freeing all of the Titans who are all trapped, and they're all sort of like basically, what is it they're all saying to themselves? This is all that I am. This is all that I am. That's all they're saying to themselves. So they go to like Cyborg first, and he's all like linked up to cables and metal bits and stuff.
Buried underneath it.
And the young woman pulls out a mirror, which she conjures with magic, which again made me think Raven. And she holds the mirror up to Cyborg, which snaps him out of it, and he remembers who he is. Well, kind of. He doesn't remember everything, but he remembers enough. And then he's with her, and they go looking for the next person. And the big problem with this issue is that it's that over. And like we just do it with we do it with them. We do it with Starfire. We do it with Beast Boy ultimately.
The Beast Boy one, I thought that was. I mean, had they skipped through some of the other ones, I got to the Beast Boy one. I thought that one was a nice, we got to unpack a bit with him.
Also, the opening of the issue, the reason why I immediately thought it was Raven is because when she burst through the floor, it's all purple. So I thought it was color coding for me. I was like, this is Raven.
So maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is Rachel, right? Her human side.
Yeah.
The non-Trigon daughter side. And she's unaffected because of magic.
Yeah, I think the weird thing about this, though, is that I just immediately assumed it was her. So then the book tried to pretend that it wasn't at all. It was, like, weird. And I was like, what are you doing? why are we pretending that this isn't her? And then it's like, okay, no.
And the hairstyle made me think of Donna Troy, too.
Yeah,
right?
But then we find Donna Troy.
But we see Donna Troy and going through there. And, And, I mean, I think it was pretty cool with them creating the hallways and, creating their way out was a nice little touch. But it was too repetitive, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the art's not bad though. Art's
it's Godlewski, who we're familiar with from John Kent and Super Sons.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, he's got this fun cartoony style, which kind of works. They do eventually just sort of rip their they tear the wall basically with she uses a piece of the mirror she had that smashed at one point and just tears like a hole out into like a field, and that's when they run into like a spirit or raven who's like, yeah, I've been helping you, we don't have time to explain everything, we're trapped in the nightmare of this. And I thought it was going to reveal a character, but then it was just like the Titans Tower looking all evil.
No, because that was based off of the cover of the tower looking all evil, So I figured that would play in a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, but I thought, because obviously, like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, we're in Dick Grayson's nightmare. Like, his nightmare is the one that's doing it all, because we don't meet him in the issue, and I thought that's where they were going with it. But they don't, so.
No, he's too busy in Arkham teaming up with the Scarecrow right now.
I guess. For some reason, the rest of the Titans are all nightmaring together as besties, but Nightwing's on his own.
Who you would think, just their links together, that would have been the story for Nightwing.
And the answer, of course, is that it's because Nightwing has a book, and that's why he's not in this team book, because for some reason they think it wouldn't make sense for having them in both, which is fine, but it just makes it feel like the rules of how this works is just nonsense. Which is the big problem with doing so much Nightmare stuff, is that it feels like they can all just make up whatever shit they want and never set anything up and pay it off, which is how I feel about most of these tie-ins. So, not the worst tie-in, but I don't have a lot of positive things to say either, really.
Yeah, me neither. Except that, I mean, not positive, but we had this multiple page stuff to get Cyborg out, when it's just more of stuff that they've done with Cyborg so many times, of him not being the machine and him not, we had this whole issue last week at the Tales of the Titans with Starfire not wanting to be a princess and not being right. And yet she just gets one panel of her acting, I guess, like a despot or whatever. And, there's nothing there for her. So a little bit bummed out on that. But that's personal. That has neither here nor there with anybody else.
I mean, I was looking ahead to next week, and I think there's one that I won't read that I read last time, and I think that'll probably be true for most weeks. And I think for this week, it'll probably be Titans Night Terrors that I don't bother with next month. If I was to guess. Because Detective obviously was good. Action had half of it I thought was quite good. So I suspect that Titans is the one that I'll probably drop next month and make room to, I don't know, whatever else.
Yeah.
So there you go. What were you rating Night Terrors Titans?
I'll give this a 6.
Yeah, the art's pretty good. There's a couple of fun pages, I guess. Yeah, I'll go 5. So there you go. Night Terrors is over for the week, but we do have one other book to talk about. It is the new Black Label Mark Waid book. It is Superman, The Last Days of Lex Luthor. Mark Waid writing with Bryan Hitch on the art. And this is a spiritual kind of follow-up to Birthright. And it's about Lex Luthor going to Superman for help. Of course, he does it in the most Lex Luthor way possible. We'll talk about that in a bit. But he goes to Lex Luthor, to Superman for help because he's dying. And this is something that I've seen in other stories before. Is basically Lex messing with kryptonite too much has led to him dying, like he's got cancer. So Superman, of course, isn't going to refuse, despite the fact that Lex is a piece of shit because he's Superman. There's a little twist there, though, where Lex has broadcast this conversation to the world because he wants everyone to hate him for helping Lex because everyone hates Lex. And I'm like, you devious bastard, it's genius.
Well, it's one of those things, too, that he's making it like, Superman is in a rock and a hard place, right? Because, of course, he's going to help him, but now the whole world knows that he's going to help him. It's not like he can do it on the slide, so
there's two things that this book effectively does after that point. Is you've got the present day stuff where Superman's trying different things to help him, and you've got an extended flashback portion of them as teenagers in Smallville, and some stuff there. And there's a brief glimpse at the start and the end of this tragic fire that obviously Clark feels guilty about with Lex, which are obviously building up to in the flashbacks. And also it seems like Clark is writing an article about the final days of Lex Luthor. Without revealing exactly how it's going to end yet. So, and there's a really neat transition in there, actually, of the article text, which has been used as narration, transitioning to like real-time Superman narration. I thought that was cool, where it, like you see like the one box over the other box, and it kind of like just follows on as if it's okay, now we're in the live narration of the time, as opposed to Clark writing later on.
Yeah, it jumps from him talking about Superman in the third person to I. Yeah, that's real cool. I like that.
So that's a neat little technique. So we'll get into the specifics of like what the two main plot threads are after that point. But what was your feeling overall with this?
I like it. I mean, Mark Waid and Superman, Birthright's one of my favorite stories of all time. In fact, I might say it is my favorite. And so it already has that vibe. It's just not with the the Lionel Yu art now. It's switched over to Hitch,
which is a bit of a shame. I do think Bryan Hitch, like, I think he has panels that are I think when he does a close-up on a face, he tends to be quite good, but when he has like any kind of body like there's so many panels in this where Superman's like got his arm up, or he's like just standing weird, or
it's very posed.
There's I don't think he draws the body that well, and that's a bit of a shame. But
the action does flow pretty well too. Like
even the opening page where it's like Clark writing the article and he leaves his glasses on the desk, the actual sequencing of that is quite good.
So so a little bit disappointed that it wasn't you. We couldn't get that team up to reconvene, but it is a very Superman story in that of course Superman's going to help Lex, and that Superman believes in the impossible, right? He does the impossible, therefore nothing's impossible. And then you got Lex, who, not to say that he's hopeless, right? But he seems like he's out of options because he can't figure this out. And when we get the stories that when they start reflecting on one another, the young Clark and Lex, and their uneasy friendship with the uneasy partnership of Superman and Lex, they echo each other really well. And like Mark Waid's really good at this. That's what I came out of this issue with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got one thing going against it for me, which is the personal taste thing, is that Clark and Lex knowing each other as teenagers in Smallville is not my preferred backstory for Lex.
I thought you were a big Smallville, the TV show fan, Pete.
Piss off, you heathen. It's not my preferred thing. Obviously, it's better than the Smallville TV show. I'm not going to say otherwise to that. But I just don't think Lex Luthor needs this. I think Lex's power as a character is so potent. The idea that he's just this powerful man who's independent from Superman, who when Superman invades his world, right, by appearing to the public.
Yeah.
I think there's so much power in that, and it makes him such a fascinating character that I don't think you need to seed him into the backstory and Ghostmaker him effectively. Which, don't get me wrong, this has been done before. This is not just a Waid thing.
I mean, this goes back to the Silver Age of Lex having it. Depending on who's telling the story, it was punishment for messing around, so he got sent to this podunk little town. Just happened by chance to be where Clark Kent lives.
I just prefer a Lex that doesn't meet him until he's Superman, right, in adulthood.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, it's a personal taste thing.
Yeah,
I can take either or. One of my favorite things is, I think it's from Superman for All Seasons. It's Jeff Loeb's narration about Lex Luthor. It's like Lex Luthor was going to be mankind's greatest hero until the aliens showed up, right? And it's just like his ego can't handle the existence of Superman in Metropolis, and it completely flips him, right? And to me, that's such a powerful image of Lex Luthor. And John's played with this a little bit in Superboy when, Lex could, cure cancer, but he doesn't, because what does he gain from that, right? It plays with that, with the ego side of Lex, and I feel like Waid plays with that here as well. So, I mean, I feel like I'm getting it from both sides, so I'm going to be happy regardless.
I think it's worth mentioning just my feelings on that before we go any further with it. That said, though, I do think this is a really well-written issue. I think the voice for Superman is great, as Waid usually does. He's got his own little quirks that probably come from other places, but I associate it with Waid, which is when he's doing his narration as Superman, he does kind of sometimes refer to something Clark Kent did in the third person, as if he's talking about a different persona. I don't know if I would do that, but it's definitely something that sticks out when I notice Waid's writing him. It does feel like it's harkening back to that Birthright kind of like feeling. It feels kind of like it is a sequel to that, you know, at the other end of the spectrum. So that's all solid stuff. You know, I think while I have my reservations about young Lex and Clark knowing each other, I actually think a lot of those scenes are some of the best scenes in the book because of, you know, young Clark struggling and wanting to like get involved and not being able to tell him anything. Trying with this little asshole that he shouldn't really be trying with because young Lex is a dick, but he tries anyway. You know, he relates to him because he feels like an outsider, and sure enough, what does Clark feel like? He feels like an outsider.
And that's right, and that's that empathy that makes Superman Superman.
Yeah, so
he wants to connect with him, but he doesn't know how else to do it because it's not like he can tell him. Because if you say that Lex is an outsider, Lex is going to be upset. And one of the lines that struck me the biggest is I think it's younger Clark talking about Lex, and he says that, you know, he has all this room for all this intelligence, but he has zero emotional intelligence. You know, it's because he always has to be the smartest guy in the room. And he goes, and there's a scene where he's talking about this, where he goes to fix one of the guys in Smallville's tractor because the exhaust is leaking. And he just, without being asked, he just starts tearing apart this dude's tractor. And the dude, you know, gets upset with him. He goes, oh, you know, I'm trying to help you. Well, you know, this town just hates me. And it's just like this, you know, shitty little kid. And you're like, of course that's who Lex Luthor was. But Superman or Clark, young Clark, sees that Lex does mean well. He just doesn't know how to go about it because no one's ever shown him, you know?
That's Lex basically always thinks he knows better, right? And that what he's going to do is the right thing, and everyone should just be thankful that he's blessing them with his expertise. And
to me, that reflects across the later story when, you know, whatever this disease is that's eating him alive, you know, this cancer or whatever it is, you know, it's the fact, like, for once he doesn't know best, right? Everything that he's tried doesn't work, so he's exhausted all his options. That's why he's coming to Superman. You know?
Yeah. I think by contrast, the stuff that's in present day where Clark brings him to the fortress, takes him to the bottle city of Kandor, thinking, well, if you've already tried all the Earth ways of trying to fix this, obviously, so let's try something outside of that spectrum. So it takes him to the bottle city of Kandor, and I did think, though, because Superman keeps kind of, I won't say joking, but he keeps kind of saying, hey, if this is a trap, Lex, or something to double cross me with, now's the time. You know, he says that a few times, something like that, and I kind of chuckled because I'm like, you know, you sort of showing and taking Lex to the fortress and showing him Kandor feels like this is a lot. If you somehow save him, he's got a lot of new intel on you that you didn't have before.
True.
You know, so
well, it's also him going like, hey, if this is your time to take a punch, take a punch.
But you know, I
have no powers here.
Like, if this turns out that Lex's master plan was just to find out a lot of his secrets, then I feel like he's doing a good job of it.
Yeah, but I also feel like Waid's writing him with such a desperation, like that he really doesn't know what to do. Like, maybe this started as, I'm going to pretend that I'm sick, and then he couldn't find a way out. Like, maybe that's what it ends up being.
We know he's not faking because Superman, you know, does all the tests and whatnot.
Yeah, but
so,
you know,
the big thing here is like, okay, even freezing you won't work. This thing's like affecting your specific DNA. It won't spread to anyone, which is great, but it's affecting you specifically, and even freezing you won't work. And then Superman has the idea that the Phantom Zone, because of the way it changes you, and this is something that changed, like, every single interpretation of the Phantom Zone is different, I feel like. So this is like Waid saying, okay, this is my version of the Phantom Zone. It follows these rules. And we see Zod briefly even, and they try to have a revolt against Superman. And eventually Zod's pissed that Lex won't try and kill Superman. And Lex said, no, I need him just now. Once I'm saved, I'll help you happy. You know, we could be the best of friends. I hate this prick.
But I love that so much because it was just like, I know you don't like Step Brothers, the movie, right? But there's a line where before you meet Adam Scott's character, where Will Ferrell is like, yeah, you're not gonna like my brother. He's an even bigger a-hole than you are, you know. And that's what it gets me with Zod and Lex. That's their relationship. Is like, we don't like each other, but we dislike him more than we don't like each other.
Yeah, I think all this stuff I liked less than the Smallville stuff, because purely because it went in a little bit into that Mark Waid thing that he's guilty of sometimes, of just having all these like things he has to explain of like, okay, this is how the Phantom Zone works, and this is why this can't work, and this is why this can, and I'm like, okay, like, all right.
Yeah, I can excuse that a little bit because it is through Lex explaining. Like, I know when we start getting into the sciencey things of how the Phantom Zone works, I just took that as that's Lex showing off how smart he is.
It's the same earlier on in the issue, because Lex's whole thing to like get Superman's attention is he uses his giant crab robot thing to like basically threaten to destroy this little island, and Superman comes in and has to save all the people on the island, and he does it at one point because this island's so low in sea level that if it has like a bad earthquake, it might just flood, and that's it, gone forever. And there's some tremors, so there's a couple of pages where Superman flies underground and creates echo chambers to counteract the tremors underground. And like, there's so much explanation for this, and I'm like,
a little bit much.
Yeah, like seriously, like Waid, I love your writing, I do, but maybe you could have just made this simpler.
And people would call me a hypocrite if I don't call it out, but this is because Superman.
It kind of is, It's like, because Superman, that's exactly what it is.
And I don't like it here either. I can just excuse it for the stuff that happens later, but like Pete was saying, the Smallville stuff is so strong when we get to there and we see, young Clark's empathy. Again, I was talking about echoes earlier, just like when he's creating these echo chambers to save these people that are just collateral to Lex Luthor. Right? That's how he sees the people of Smallville too. They're just people that are in his way, or people that he can use to get what he wants. And you kind of feel this frustration through Clark, that like he's never going to learn. Why do I waste my time? But I waste my time because it's the right thing to do. And that conversation that Clark has with Mom and Pa Kent about Lex really solidified that for me.
Yeah. I also liked Clark using his supervision to watch a movie at the drive-in through the wall, from miles away. I was going to say, but it is sound as well, and I thought I can probably hear it as well.
Yeah.
He's Superman. He's probably hearing it as well. There. It's a big Warner Brothers logo, which obviously, I'm sure they can get away with that.
Very funny. But yeah. No, it's really good, Mark Waid. It's what I've wanted from him, back at DC when he finally came back, because he had never really worked on Superman himself. It was, he wrote Justice League and he wrote other issues of things where Superman was, but when he finally got to write Birthright and got to do his version of Superman, it just really clicked with me. And so now that he's getting to tell this, and it's like the Lex Luthor's last story, and it does feel permanent.
Well, we don't know that. I think that's up in the air.
Yeah, but to me it feels like the end game of this is like Lex Luthor realizing like you can't outsmart death. That one day he's going to cease to exist and Superman's still going to be there. And how does Lex's
Until we read the final issue and I see a corpse, I don't believe a goddamn thing.
Because I was like, well, he can't clone himself because it's in his DNA, right? So we can't use the what was it, Alexander Luthor clone that popped up in Death of Superman. So, we can't pull him out of time. We can't, I'm trying to think of all these comic book things that we could, and I just, I feel like this is that story. It's Lex's ruminations of death. But, Waid can always just throw a curveball. As long as the story's told well, I'm here for the ride. But I really enjoyed this. Like, this was a really, really, really solid outing.
The overall feel of it is quite good. I like the tone. I like Clark kind of ruminating and like faced with this conflict of helping someone who is just completely awful, and the awful person banking on the fact that he's going to feel he has to help him. Yep. The final page is the scientist or whoever it is in Kandor saying, "Why are you going to so much trouble to help this guy?" And that's when it cuts back to that thing we saw at the start of the issue again, which is Clark looking out this window as there's a fire. Presumably where Lex lost his hair, I imagine. Yeah. Would be my guess. So, I like that as the final page because it doesn't reveal anything new. Because we actually already saw a glimpse of this earlier on the issue. This doesn't use the final page to be like, whoa, cliffhanger. This uses the final page to be like, this is to like tie in a bow what the emotional point of the story is. This is what we want you to be thinking about going into issue 2. You know, it didn't try and do there's a big new threat, what will happen next time, because we get that all the time in comics, and fundamentally most of them don't mean anything, because it's just they'll deal with it in a couple of pages, it's fine. Whereas this is not something you can deal with in a page. This is something that the entire rest of the story has to deal with. So this actually feels like a stronger ending to me than some just as a big threat cliffhanger. So you know, anyway, what are you rating Last Days of Lex Luthor issue 1?
I'm gonna go with 9.
I'm going to go with an 8. A little bit lower, mainly because I think Bryan Hitch's art it's got its faults. You know, like the layouts are good, some close-ups of faces are really great, but I do think he has a problem with when he's drawn a full body, and that rears its ugly head a few times. And also, you know, fundamentally, I prefer Lex and Clark not to know each other before Metropolis. But in the context of what it's doing with that, it's actually quite good, and it's actually the best part of the issue, shockingly. So, but it's good. I'm glad it's here, and I'm looking forward to issue 2. I don't know why I just wrote down this was issue 8. It's because that was my rating. That's what it was. I typed in my rating.
Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, there you go. That is the final book, which will take us out the part of the show where we pick our favorites of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. And oh boy, and that's, I read 5 books, which means I have to put them all on it, which is unfortunate. Matt, what was your panel/moment of the week?
So there's a couple in Last Days of Lex Luthor. The Superman, when they get to the Phantom Zone, he tells Lex, "Hey, do you want to take a swing at me?" Knowing that Lex can't because it's the Phantom Zone. That was pretty good. A lot of the Smallville stuff with Clark, keeping an eye on Lex as he's going about was there. But mine's going to be from the Philip Kennedy Johnson Action Comic story. And it's going to be, Keenan talking about, the stuff that he's learned, right? Him and Connor. So when he mentions Chainsaw, Final Girl, don't split up. It was, kind of right in my niche, right? So that's mine.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Keenan saying what he's learned from the horror movie, like what English he's picked up.
That's pretty good.
It's just because it was really fun. Art was good. It was a nice moment. I can relate to watching horror movies, so it's it's nice to bring the super family down to my level.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go with that. All right, cover of the week. I don't know if you got any picked out.
Yeah, as we've been talking, I've been clicking around and looking. And there's some good for detective, right? It's Federici and that. But Last Days of Lex Luthor had a Murderer's Row. They have a Somni Superman that just looks like classic Dini Adventures of Superman cartoon.
They got Doc Shaner as well.
But that's my pick, is the Doc Shaner. It's Lex looking very worried. Both Superman outside the window, and you can't see Superman's face. It's just, kind of neck down. And you just feel Superman's presence over, an upset Lex. And Shaner's at a different level.
Yeah. I quite like the main cover for Action, which is like a horror cover with Henshaw coming through the door with... It's actually Power Girl that's there on the front, which I guess is just kind of connecting both stories, but I think it's a cool image. Other than that, I'm just looking to see some of these other ones. I've not had a good chance to look at them yet.
Gotcha.
To see if anything sticks out. Oh, there's a Matina cover of the night. Oh, that's actually really nice. Night Terrors 2. There's a Matina cover which is like a Wesley Dodds like hat and mask like in a pile of sand. It looks good.
It looks really good too. Yeah.
Yeah. That may be my pick, even though I didn't like the issue very much. Obviously, yeah, Federici's cover is good, and I like the ones you mentioned from Luthor. But yeah, I think I'll go with that. I think I'll go with the Matina variant for Night Terrors 2. It's just a really haunting image of that gas mask. So, cool. All right. Art of the week.
Yeah, so I do like the art in Action Comics on both of them, but you can't beat Federici.
Yeah, it's Federici. I was going to slap you if you said anything else, to be honest.
I would love to be able to give it to Action Comics, but man, Federici, some of those, it's just the tone of it, the how the panels break down, his style, it's perfect for a Nightmare style book.
Yeah, all right. Obviously, my pick's Federici, if that wasn't obvious from what I said.
Yeah.
So, rank the 5 books, Matt.
All right, number 1, Last Days of Lex Luthor. 2, Night Terrors Detective Comics. 3, Night Terrors Action Comics. 4, Night Terrors Titans. And 5, Night Terrors 2.
Yeah, it's a little bit closer for me, but it's probably still number 1, Superman Last Days of Lex Luthor. 2, Night Terrors Detective. 3, Night Terrors Action. 4, Night Terrors Titans, I guess. It feels weird putting that above the main book, but honestly, the main book pissed me off more. So, yeah, number 5, Night Terrors 2. So, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, rough week for the Night Terrors. I mean, it was good. I mean, I suppose the best tie-in we've had was this week, but
yeah,
also...
And I liked action for the most part. I mean...
But we're 4 weeks in though, so like some of the ones that aren't as good are really, the main book and Titans were both really great and, to me. So I guess it's just that like accumulative like disdain that you develop over the course of an event like this. But we got another month yet to go, so look forward to that, I guess. Happy fun. But anyway, I will tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. So we have some non-Night Terror stuff, which is nice. We have Justice Society issue 5. We have Adventures of Superman John Kent issue 6, so the final issue of that. So that's a couple of cool books to get on top of the Night Terror stuff. We also have Night Terror's Batman issue 2, and I can't wait to see how crazy that gets. We have Night Terror's Joker issue 2, Night Terror's Poison Ivy issue 2, Peacemaker Tries Hard 4, Night Terror's Ravager issue 2, City Boy issue 3, there's another one that gives us a break from the Night Terror stuff, Steelworks issue 3, Night Terror's Black Adam issue 2, which I will not be reading. That's the one that I will definitely not be looking at, that I read the issue 1 of, because it was nothing. And then Sandman Universe, I almost said Night Terrors, just a habit there. Sandman Universe Special, Thessaly issue 1, and then Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, 1, 2, 3. So... You know what? We got 3 non-Night Terrors books. That's not bad.
Yeah, looking good. And just the sheer, what's the word I'm looking at? Like when you look at a car crash, you know, it's that for Batman, for Night Terrors.
Yeah, we'll read Batman. You'll read Poison Ivy. We'll read Ravager probably.
Yeah, I like that first issue of Ravager enough to go see to pick up issue 2.
Yeah, there you go. Well. There you go, that is episode 367 of Comics from the Multiverse. Hopefully we said something amusing or insightful or... I don't know, we passed the time. Like your hours have went by and the pain is only slightly noticeable.
Pain is only temporary.
Anyway, that is the show. Thank you very much. You can support the content and the podcast, of course, by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us for any amount per month. It does help out a lot. We get the show a little bit early if you are $5 or more on Patreon. Whenever it's ready and out the oven, late on a Saturday is when it goes up. But that is the show. So thank you very much for joining us. Get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, and feel free to let us know what you think of Night Terrors so far. But that is everything. You can check out the Discord if you. There's links in the description for all this stuff. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.